Before I call the meeting to order, I'd like to note we have interpretation services for this meeting. The interpreter for this evening is Ms. Villagrana, and would you mind raising your hand? And please ask her for a listening device if you would like interpretation service. Antes de llamar a la Junta a orden, me gustaría notar que contamos con servicios de interpretación para esta Junta. Y la señora Grana está ahí sentada atrás. I would like to call this meeting to order for the City Council meeting of June 20th, 2023. Madam Clerk, could you please make an announcement about accessing the meeting and call the roll?
In order to participate in the City Council meeting virtually, please register to speak using the link on the agenda. To raise your hand to speak on a particular agenda item, please use the raise hand button in the Zoom meeting portal. If you are using a telephone, please press *9 on your telephone keypad and then press *6 to unmute your phone. When it is your time to speak, you will be requested to unmute your microphone and speak for the time allotted by the mayor. Microphone will be muted upon completion of your comments. Councilmember Aguilar Hernandez. Here. Councilmember Escobedo.
Here.
Councilmember Cordero.
Here.
Councilmember Soto. Here. Madam Mayor Patino.
Here. The first item on the agenda this evening is a proclamation, and Councilmember Escobedo will be making the presentation.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Today I have the honor and privilege to present the proclamation for Recreation and Parks Month. Whereas the City of Santa Maria recognizes the importance of recreation and parks as an integral part of the community, and whereas recreation and parks promote health and wellness, provide opportunities to spend time in nature, improving mental health, cognitive performance, and alleviating illnesses such as depression, attention deficit disorders, and Alzheimer's. And whereas the recreation and parks encourage physical activities by providing spaces for popular sports, hiking trails, swimming pools, and many other activities designed to promote active lifestyles. And whereas the recreation and park programming and education activities such as out-of-school time programming, youth sports, and environmental education are critical for childhood development. And whereas recreation and parks increases a community's economic prosperity through increased property values, expansion of the local tax base, increased tourism, and attraction and retention of businesses and crime reduction. Now, therefore, Alison Patino, Mayor of the City of Santa Maria, hereby recognizes July 2023 as Recreation and Parks Month and in the City of Santa Maria, and encourage residents and community members to partake in recreation and parks activities and enjoy the array of opportunities within the city's park facility and recreation program. And here to receive this proclamation, we have Rebecca Carey and Paul Lynn.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Patino and City Council. I just have a couple things regarding our parks since it's getting, July is our busy season. Just want to talk about our Rec on the Move program, which will be at Grogan Park and Tunnel Park this year. Rec on the Move is a free program that provides youth with an opportunity to engage in games and activities at 2 local parks. It's free and there's no registration required. It's Monday through Friday, 11 to 3, from June 12th through August 4th, and grammar school age 6 to 12 are invited and welcome, and I believe they get free lunches. The other thing would be our summer recreation guide is out now, and I believe you all received one. There's so much to it. It features a wide variety of activities for every age group, literally from babies through seniors, including art classes to fitness programs, sports, free community events, and so much more. It's available online. The majority of them are online. We don't send them out any longer. But it can be accessed through the city website link, as well as on our Facebook page, or you can just Google it and it'll pop up. The other thing I just want to say real quick is that Concerts in the Park is in full force. And this Sunday, the 25th, or next Sunday, at Quistapache Park, Moments in Time will be the band, and it's there from 1 to 3, and it's free, and it'll be a lot of fun. So hope to see you there. Have a wonderful summer. And again, thank you.
Hi, I'm Paul Lee. I'm a first-generation immigrant. And when I came here at the age of 65 years ago, my first words in English were, "Can I play?" So play, believe, achieve. That is the power of play. And when one is engaged in sports, music, the arts, there are so many life skills that may be attained through participation, competitive achievement, teamwork, leadership, communication, conflict resolution. The list goes on. And I'm sure all of you have been engaged in what I call the power of play. And I thank you for recognizing the city for their many accomplishments. Alex, I see. Thank you, Alex, and your team. Thank you.
Mrs. Lopez, would you like to make any comments? I don't want to put you on the spot, but
Sorry, I'm late. I was waiting for Tom to get home. So, I want to add on to what everyone said, Paul and Commissioner Carey. Thank you for this recognition. It's important for us, or for everyone, to rise up and support Parks and Recreation, because every day they rise up for the community in service of equity, climate readiness, and overall health and well-being. Parks are the center of so many experiences and memories. They are places of gather and with friends and family, spaces to celebrate life's special moment. And they are sites that connect us with essential community services and so much more. So thank you, Mayor Patino, council members, and the community for this recognition, because they definitely deserve it, so appreciate it.
thank you. And I do want to thank Mrs. Lopez, Ms. Carey, and Mr. Lee for being on the Parks Commission, and that takes time. But you guys are a very proactive commission, and you're always busy trying to think of new things to do for our kids in our community, and that's truly appreciated. Mr. Escobedo.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Definitely it was mentioned, and so many more things. And I think that's important about recreation and parks, because parks are not just places where are trees and lawn, but that's where you make friends. That's a place where you develop team leadership and so many other things, that in a space where our community can come out and find a place to relax, to have fun, that sometimes we cannot find at home, because, there's a lot of stuff going on. So appreciate the work of the commissioners and Mr. Posada and his team. I've been working for many years, and it's an important part for our community, not just playing, but also building a stronger community. So thank you, guys.
I think, I want to tell the people of Santa Maria, too, when other cities were closing their parks, and I met with Mr. Silwell and Mr. Posada, and we did not close our parks in Santa Maria. It was really important, because we have a lot of families that live together in a house, and where else are they going to go but to recreate, but in our parks? And we've got beautiful parks. Our families, our kids should be using it. So thank you, everyone in Santa Maria, for being so welcoming in that.
Yeah, I'd like to say something.
Oh, yes.
I think as cities become more condensed and we have condensed housing, rec and parks becomes much more important to the community. And also, it saves a lot of youth from getting in trouble, right? We can save youth and families this way and connect with people this way and make connections. So I think it's so important to give it the value, the time, and the budget it needs every year, because it is really important.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda this evening is another proclamation, and Councilmember Cordero will be making the presentation.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's with particular honor that it is for me to give this proclamation on Juneteenth, and thank you for assigning it to me, Mayor. Whereas news of the end of chattel slavery did not reach the frontier areas of the United States, in particularly the state of Texas, until the months after the conclusion of the Civil War. More than 2.5 years after President Abraham Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation on rebellious states on January 1, 1863, and whereas Union troops led by General Gordon Granger entered Galveston, Texas on June 19, 1865, issuing General Order Number 3, which ordered enslaved African people in Texas to be free, and stated that this involves the absolute equality of personal rights and rights of property between former enslaved and enslaves, and in whereas chattel slavery still continued in the Union border states of Kentucky and Delaware, which was abolished by the ratification of the 13th Amendment in the United States Constitution in December 1865. And whereas Juneteenth allows us to celebrate the freeing of enslaved people and reflect on the condition of lives of their descendants in our present day. Now, therefore, Alice Patino, Mayor for the City of Santa Maria, hereby recognizes June 19, 2023 as Juneteenth Independence Day in the City of Santa Maria, and encourages all residents to use this time to learn about the legacy of Black people in the City of Santa Maria, County of Santa Barbara, and State of California in the United States of America. This was witnessed by our mayor, and her signature has been placed on it on the 20th day of June 2023. And here to receive this is LaWanda Lyons Pruitt. She's with the local NAACP, and I actually called her at home yesterday to celebrate this great day. So. Somebody's got to take a picture. Get up here.
Yes. Good evening. And thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, council members. Special thanks to my council member, because Council Member Cordero, I didn't even realize had finally moved over to District 2.
How dare you?
Yeah, I was in 4, and I was upset about being in 4 because I couldn't figure out why I would be in that district. But anyway, I finally moved over last year and was really honored to have Councilmember Cordero as my representative on the City Council, and all of you as well. So my name is LaWanda Lyons Pruitt. I'm president of the nation's oldest civil rights organization, the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. And we were founded in 1909 by some 60 people, 53 of whom were white. And I know you guys have heard me tell this story before, but I think it is important that the story is always told. And that's the importance of Juneteenth as well. I know that we celebrate Black history, and we said that Black history is American history, and it is. Juneteenth is also American history. And that story needs to be told, because when you tell it, and by the way, we had a huge block party in Lompoc with a lot of nonprofits. We had bands, music, we had Juneteenth reenactments, lots of food. It felt like a community. We've been doing it at Ryan Park, but South H, the mayor allowed South H Street to be closed down so that we could have this huge gathering. And one reason that it is in Lompoc is because you guys know that we do this huge Black history celebration at our city library, and then we go to Pioneer Park. And parks are definitely important, and Pioneer is our favorite. Anyway, so it's important that we do something in Lompoc as well, and so that's why we go to Lompoc. But I stand on the shoulder of my ancestors, proudly stand, who paved the way for me and made the ultimate sacrifice with slavery and many of the things that they endured. And it's about remembering the past, reflecting on it, and when we reflect and we remember, history doesn't repeat itself, because we're talking about it and it's constantly on the back burner. It's also about acknowledging and learning from the past as we chart a new future with an unwavering commitment to racial equity and justice. So we so proudly thank you, Madam Mayor. We thank the council for always being so gracious. Anything that we ask for, we know that you're gonna give it to us. My council member Cordero chats in with me at least once a month, and I just appreciate chatting with him. So thank you so much, and belated happy Juneteenth. Thank you.
Thank you, LaWanda.
Yolanda, I don't know how far we go back, but probably 20 years or something.
More than that.
And I just have to say that there was a time, for others here that don't know, that you and I were on opposite sides of the fence of you, not as each other, but I mean, you were working for the defense and I was working for the prosecution as a policeman. And I have to share with you and with everybody, all the listening people, that whenever you do something in the community, even then, and I wasn't really sure how to take that back then, but it just seems like you do things from the heart, and we all appreciate that. So
Yes,
thank you.
Thank you so much. And I'll tell this story real quickly. He doesn't remember, but the first time he met me, he was the commander at the police department. And I had this neighbor who would call the police on me at 2 o'clock in the afternoon because we would be having a barbecue, and we weren't at the park, but we were having a really good time, and you know, some things were going on. He's not there anymore. And so they kept coming, and the last time they came with the DA, which was really embarrassing to me. And anyway, so I called him on the phone. I called Councilman Cordero, and I said, you know, if you guys keep coming to my house, I am going to sue you. And he said, hold on just a second. And I looked, and he was pulling up in the patrol car. And that was just, you know, he doesn't remember. I always remind him, and he said, no, I don't remember that. I'm like, yeah, I remember that. So thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I wasn't going to sue, but I was hot at the time, okay? Thank you all again.
Thank you, LaWanda. Thank you. The next item on this agenda this evening is the public comment period. Madam Clerk, would you please read the criteria for the public comment portion of the agenda?
This time is reserved to accept comments from the public on consent agenda items, closed session items, or matters not on the printed agenda this evening. If you are participating via Zoom and wish to make a public comment, now is the time to raise your hand in the Zoom meeting portal. Unless otherwise directed by the mayor, speakers will have 3 minutes to comment. Direction to staff may be given. However, state law does not allow action to be taken on matters not on the printed agenda. Once the public comment period commences, no other speakers will be allowed to submit a request to speak form or request acknowledgement in Zoom. And Madam Mayor, before we get started, we did receive one written communication from Andres Martinez sharing details about the California Mortgage Relief Program. And we did have one person in Zoom by a telephone number who had their hand raised, but now they have lowered it.
Okay.
So at this point, we have no request to speak.
Okay.
Oh, wait, they did raise their hand back.
Oh, they did? Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
just a moment.
Okay.
The person with the last, with the number of 055, do you care to make a public comment?
Yes, I would.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Good evening, Madam Mayor, council members, and staff. My name is Gary Hall. I am a resident of Rancho Buena Vista Mobile Estates at 2135 North Railroad Avenue here in Santa Maria. I represent the North Santa Barbara County Mobile Homeowners Team, or NSBIT. Due to minor illness, I cannot join you in chambers tonight. However, I did want to provide the following public comment. I am speaking tonight to once again ask the city of Santa Maria to join over 100 other California jurisdictions that have provided their mobile home park residents with protection from excessive rent increases, and in that way help to maintain affordable housing for their senior and low-income citizens. June 7th marked 1 year since Council Members Soto, Escobedo, and Cordero passed the motion to examine the model lease agreement, looking for ways to improve it and to look at alternatives. Unfortunately, that work remains undone. Meetings have been held and some progress has been made, but far too little. We believe the issues and proposed solutions which we identified and delivered to the city in our January 9th email did provide a list of necessary enhancements that should be made to the existing model lease. Those issues and solutions included: 1, park owner participation and overall effectiveness of the program; 2, the necessary outreach to all mobile home residents; 3, the lack of enforcement; 4, the economic terms. Yet another meeting was held this morning with city representatives and park owners. No results have been yet announced. Perhaps it is time to look at alternatives. Our overall goal remains to provide protection to all Santa Maria mobile home residents presently living in an unregulated rental market where the current model lease program has been ineffective in protecting homeowner equity and maintaining affordable mobile home housing. We continue to believe our goal is achievable. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hall. This concludes the public comment portion of the agenda. Before we move on, Mr. Stiller, do you have any comments? Moving on, the next item is the consent calendar. Madam Clerk, could you please read the description?
Routine items are presented for city council approval without discussion as a single agenda item in order to expedite the meeting. The consent calendar is approved by roll call vote with one motion. These items are discussed only on the request of council members.
Does anyone have an item they wish to pull for discussion? None? None? Can I hear a motion? Do I have a second?
Second.
Having heard the motion in a second, any discussion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Councilmember Escobedo. Aye. Councilmember Aguilar Hernandez.
Aye.
Councilmember Soto. Aye. Councilmember Cordero.
Aye.
Madam Mayor Patino.
Aye. The next item is a presentation. Madam Clerk, could you please read the title?
The City Council will receive a presentation on the city roadway condition and maintenance programs.
The presentation is to be made by Director of Public Works, Mr. Fulgoni. Good evening, Mr. Fulgoni.
Good evening, Mayor, council members, members of the public. Appreciate taking the time to review our pavement management system this evening. So the objective of the discussion this evening is to provide you with a brief education, history, and some insights into our pavement management program in order to help inform your decision-making. Overview, we'll cover an overview of asphaltic concrete, what we call AC. If you can hear the jargon, AC, that's asphaltic concrete. And our pavement condition index, which we refer to as our PCI, which is currently at 65 on a scale of 0 to 100. Funding overview, we'll cover funding overview and what that's looked like. And we have maintenance activities that we consider city maintenance efforts, and then also our contracted maintenance efforts and our planned projects for the next 2 fiscal years. So our street network system data, this is just an overview of what our system looks like. And so you can see the percentage of arterials, collectors, and residential streets. And you can see that a large portion of residential streets are, in terms of square footage, but most of our traffic is carried on our arterials and collectors. We currently have a PCI of 65, which is on, as I said, a scale of 0 to 100, 100 being a brand new roadway, 0 being a dirt road. And that's dropped 1 point since last year. The current PCI by category, our arterials, 65, collectors are 60, and our residentials are a little bit better condition of 68. So here's just another example, a visual example of a PCI of 100 versus a PCI of 28 on the roadway network. And you can see as we move down the scale, we get into the red category. We're kind of fair at risk right now, so right in the middle. Here's some common pavement distress that you may see. So the weathering, raveling, as soon as we lay asphalt, the sun starts to beat it, the rain starts to beat it down, trucks start to drive out. Even if nobody uses the roadway, you're still gonna see the weathering or raveling. The bigger problem here is gonna be the alligator cracking. That means we have a structurally deficient road, which we all, have had a house or live in a house. We don't wanna live in a house with a bad foundation. The alligator cracking is akin to having a house with a bad foundation. We don't have enough asphalt or base rock under that roadway. Impact of weather and heavy loads. So water is definitely our enemy. We've, the drought is a blessing and a curse given, the more water we have on our roadways, the more that water seeps through those cracks, causes the roadway to fail. And we've seen that certainly over this last year, some pent up demand of roadway cracking. So that's really a big problem for us. And we are very, very lucky that we don't have freezing because we would be a lot worse off. There's a graphic here that shows you the impact of different commercial vehicles on our roadways. And so 1 unit is equivalent to a vehicle, a car, right? 1 truck, you can see the large truck is roughly equivalent to 14,000 of those cars. And so even if we have an AADT traffic of 30,000, we have 2 trucks on that. The impact of the asphalt is huge. So where trucks travel and our commercial traffic is hugely important to how quickly our roads deteriorate. And when we have a road that is structurally deficient, as I mentioned with the alligator cracking, it's even worse. And so the road base isn't thick enough, the road isn't thick enough, it causes a heavy vehicle will make that road fail much, much faster. And that's another problem that we have to deal with, and it's a very expensive one. Here's the curve of how pavement deteriorates. And we added in some different treatments that are typically done at various levels of PCI. And you can see the cost for each of those treatments. And the idea, what we try to do in pavement management is flatten that curve as best we can. We try to perform all of the treatments on that curve to help flatten that curve out or move the curve. Because each treatment will kind of extend the life a little bit. And we want to avoid getting to the bottom of that curve, which is a reconstruct, which you can see is exponentially more expensive than slurry sealing and chip sealing and crack sealing. So quick funding overview. We've had a limited scope of work in prior years given our budget situation. We do have a substantial amount of funding for the next 2 years, as evidenced here. We went from 3.75 million to roughly 8 million this year, and we'll be back at 7 in the next fiscal year. So pretty substantial amount of work. We have a system called Street Saver, and it's a computer system that essentially helps us manage our asset. And we use this system to help us predict roadway failures and predict roadway maintenance that's needed, and to help us understand how much money we need for various scenarios. And so this system has created this worksheet and has told us that we have a roughly $1.1 billion roadway asset. And if we want to get the roads back to a PCI of 80, we need about $106 million, $107 million. And the longer we let the roads slide down that curve, the more exponential that deficit gets. You get to more roadway failure, and it's more and more expensive to fix. It's no different than painting your house and keeping your siding intact. Otherwise, your walls are going to rot, right? And it is much more expensive than paint. And so, yes, sir.
Mayor.
Mr. Escobedo.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Can you explain the total system value? What does that mean?
Essentially, if we were to build every square foot of roadway, that's what it would essentially cost. I mean,
More than
base,
$1 billion.
complete reconstruct, that's really the value of all of our roadway asphalt system.
Okay.
Because it's not just, if we were to overlay it and work on the road, it's a different value than actually doing the road work, creating the entire road. So,
Thank you.
So wanted to get back, I know potholes have been a huge topic of conversation this year. Just wanted to touch on how they formed. I shared you with the graphic of having the water infiltrate the roadway. The water gets into cracks, and what happens is your tire runs over the crack with water in it, and it makes the water flow. And so the water flows in and out, in and out, in and out, in and out of that crack, and it takes with it sediment. So each time you get a tire going across that crack, it makes the water pump. And that water carries the sediment out, and pretty soon, there's nothing underneath that asphalt. And we all know what happens with dirt and water, right? It flows. So that's really how they form. And so how do we fix it? Cold mix, you often see in the wintertime, we have bags of cold mix, and we go out there, and cold mix is cold asphalt. It's got binders in it that just help us patch the hole, but it doesn't last very long. So we have to go back with hot mix eventually. So getting material from the hot plant. We got a new pothole truck this year. It'll actually keep our asphalt warm. And then we go around and make patches with hot asphalt so that we're not duplicating work. So it's a pretty great truck. You have to have that asphalt hot in order for it to stick together really well. We also do crack sealing, skin patching, what we call skin patching. If you have an alligator area, we just go out there and put some asphalt on it and try to just make it smooth. But that's only a temporary solution. It often fails very quickly. So we have a crew of 5 that sometimes we supplement that with others in operation, so that kind of peaks and flows. But our dedicated crew is of 5 people. We've placed about 500 tons of asphalt this year, which is around 100 tons per person. In the scheme of things, it's not that much. We would love for that number to be much, much higher, and I'll talk a little bit about what we're doing in order to do that. We plan to purchase a paver and a grinder and help our crews put asphalt on the ground. And we want our crews to work in areas that are less impacted by traffic. So residential streets, lower traffic streets, our crews will be working with pavers and grinders as opposed to just shovels. So it's a pretty should be a substantial increase next year when I give the presentation of how many tons we've placed. So how do we decide what roads? Safety, PCI, and traffic volumes. We want the highest impact to the driver. If we do a square foot of asphalt in a residential neighborhood versus a square foot of asphalt on an arterial or a collector, it's the same. It's roughly the same cost, right? And so what we want to do, the strategy we took this year was we want to have the highest impact to each driver. So higher traffic roadways, we're giving more treatment to because there's more cars that use them. We also collaborate between operations and engineering. We want to know where operations is spending their time working because we don't want them going back out fixing the same roadway over and over and over. We want to fix that so that they can move on to other things. There's also ADA requirements. If you do an overlay on a road, you have to upgrade all the sidewalk and all the ADA. And so that can often add to the timeline of the project and, of course, the expense of the project. City ops crews, like I said, we want them on lower streets. We also try to correct drainage issues before we do overlays because we don't want water flowing down the street, getting under the asphalt, pulling it up, and now we just lost our investment. So we'll touch roughly 14% of our arterial and collector roadway network this year. Here's a brief map of where this road is going to take, or where this work is going to take place. So structural deficits, and this is dig outs basically. And then our rehabilitations and chip seal. So much more extensive work in the rehabilitation category.
Is that east Donovan or west?
I'm sorry, which one?
West Donovan?
I think that's, let me see.
Between Railroad and Blossom.
Donovan, yeah, Railroad to Blosser, yep. So last slide, what's changing? We're trying to emphasize city maintenance. We're working to flatten that curve or extend that curve out. We're buying new equipment to make sure that our crews have the tools that they need to be more productive. We've increased our budget from 3.75 million to roughly 7.9 million. We're correcting structural issues where in years past we have not been able to. We also, tonight, had the on-call paving contracts that were awarded, so, you know, we can point and click where we want to work. We are also in-housing portions of our engineering and inspection to try to put more asphalt on the road. We've collaborated with operations, reviewed past projects, reviewed our old maintenance methods, tried to come up with new ideas for maintenance, emphasizing, again, preventative. And we're working on an 8-year budget cycle so that we have even more idea of what we want to work on in the years to come. And then we're also looking at real-time PCI innovations that isn't fully baked yet, but we are looking at technological solutions to help us make better decisions.
I have a question about the
Go ahead.
3.8 to 10.9 million. What level of service is that going to get us to?
Maintain the PCI,
So just to maintain it?
yes.
Okay.
We will still, with the funding levels that we currently have, we'll still see our PCI drop. It'll drop slower, but it's still going to drop until we get up to that funding level that's required to level it. And then, you know, hopefully one day we can turn the corner. So,
How much money would it get us to get to just the ones on the list? If you go back,
oop, sorry.
so these are the priorities.
These are roadways that we're actually going to work on this year.
Okay, and then the next,
These will be roadways that we work on the following.
and those are part of the 10.9 million?
These are part of the 7.9.
Okay.
So there's two, one, our current fiscal year is going to get carried over. We're going to be doing road work without money. We've historically, our projects have always been 1 year delayed. This year, we're doing all that work hopefully before December. So we're going to have essentially 2 years of road work in a year.
In one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, Mr. Escobedo.
What street is I'm trying to figure out on the left upper side. Is that Taylor?
Yeah, Taylor.
Taylor, but that one is from last, if you go back one slide, Taylor will be also included in the 2024?
Yeah,
West
2024.
Taylor?
Yep.
Okay. And Donovan, okay, perfect, yeah.
And some of
thank
these, we need to complete concrete work before we can do it, and that's why we're waiting, or we need to do a drainage improvement before we can do the work. So,
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Cordero?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Brett, I think Mr. Stillwell would disrespect me if I didn't clarify that that was $1 billion, not $1 million,
yes.
okay? I've made that
You can only get a pothole
I've made
filled.
that observation before in here about working on a billion-dollar project in our city. Would you suggest that, given everything you said with the new truck and the hot mix and all of that, that this is one of the more aggressive efforts that your division has had to make in order to restore the roadways to a better condition?
Yeah, we're really trying to pull out the stops. Our goal is that our maintenance crews are able to place, we want our crews to place material when possible, because now I'm buying material and I'm leveraging their time, right?
Okay.
They're good at what they do. If I can give them some tools to be more productive, maybe we can start to see some improvement, or at least keep status quo. So it is an aggressive approach, and there's going to be some learning moments, but we're willing to try it.
Okay, thank you. Just with all those things that you said, it just seemed to me that it was a little bit more than we've been doing in the years in the
It's
past.
substantially more, and our maintenance will be substantially more than what we've been doing.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Yes.
Madam Mayor.
Yes, Ms. Escobedo?
Yeah, one of the common conversations I have with constituents is the road. People, we were really happy to see all the rain that went at the beginning of the year. It's just farming, everything was, well, it was not, some people said it was too much water. It was. But when I was looking at the water, I remember a conversation, and I was like, oh boy, now it's gonna start, my cell phone start ringing with complaints about the asphalt and the road. So thank you for explaining a little bit of how, the correlation between how the roads are and water. And it's just, hopefully everybody who's watching us will have a better understanding on what's going on and what happened when it's a lot of rain coming. So thank you.
Mr. Fulgoni, how long is it going to take us to get a PCI of, say, 80? Talking about 3-4 years?
We would need to substantially increase our investment to get to a PCI of 80.
Okay.
I don't, it's certainly not possible. If you take a look at this slide, this is the deficit to maintain the PCI. So in order to get to a PCI of 80, we can see let's say $110 million. Next year, that number will be bigger. And so it's, how could we amortize that number in a meaningful way to, you're talking 25 million a year to do something like that. So, like I said, that's why we're trying to figure out if we could be more productive on the maintenance side to place more asphalt. And we're trying to figure out, we're looking at other ways to reduce the amount of asphalt that we maintain, because that's really the only way I can change that liability number, is by, potentially, you've seen roadways around town that go from 4 lanes to 2 lanes, right? There's a couple of benefits that go along with that, in that if you do have active transportation on those corridors, those don't need the same treatment as the corridors where the cars travel. And eventually, we're just going to have to reduce the amount of square footage that we maintain. Otherwise, we're just going to continue to see our roadways as a whole deteriorate. So we really have to focus and put that asphalt where it's really impactful. And that's the approach that we're trying to take. That's why you see the arterials and the collectors as opposed to the residential streets. So.
Okay, now, so we've got 135 Broadway, and we've got 166 Main Street. So when we call Caltrans to take care of that, what kind of a response do we get? What kind of a timeline do we get from them as far as response?
They're pretty quick.
They are? Okay.
Yeah, they are. If we reach out to them and we ask them to fix something, we have a good relationship in the field, and we're working to, just today I got an email from them. We're trying to set up more regular meetings with Caltrans. They agree. They think it's a good idea to try to improve that relationship. But on their maintenance side, I think they're pretty responsive.
Good. Any other questions from the council? No?
I don't think you answered the question as to how long it would take us to get to a level of 80.
What was
But I
that?
think it depended on,
Yeah, depends how much money we get and
Money?
how aggressive we are.
It's truly that function, yeah. We're doing small efforts, but It's purely a
It
function.
wasn't too long ago, we were in the high 70s, so it's just, yeah.
And
The rain was good.
So I do have a
Yeah, we should-
question.
yes.
About electric vehicles. I've heard that electric vehicles are heavier,
they are.
and so they cause more damage to our roads. Given that we're going electric 2035, how will that affect the numbers?
The heavier your vehicle are, the more impact to the roadway there is. So it will impact it substantially.
And, I mean, just to add to the conversation, if I may,
Ms. Soto?
thank you. I think that this is where, along with city staff, we're really going to have to put our thinking caps on, because it's not just the roads, but then the gas tax, right? Like,
It's going away.
Yeah, like how are we, and I mean, it's going to be a gradual transition. I don't foresee all vehicles being green by that year, but I do foresee it being a slow transition. And so how are we going to generate that revenue that is needed to ensure that we can keep up with our roadways?
Yeah.
Because it's not just residents, but it's also our fleets and other vehicles that are coming into our
Yeah,
city.
the worse our roads are, the more impact we have to our fleet department with garbage trucks and, all the vehicles that we operate, so.
Do we have the number as to what the gas tax is that you're getting?
Yeah, it's on the RMRA report.
I think it's in the budget, isn't it?
I think it's, there's a whole bunch of different funding streams, so let
Yeah.
me,
Yeah.
I think it's like 2.8.
But I agree, I think we have to think of ways of how we're going to supplement that, because that is going away if we do go fully electric.
The funding is roughly 2.6 million, 2.66.
Well, we have Senate Bill 1, and I'm sure the state is going to come up with another bill that will, yeah.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
already have, so the SB1 is 2.663, and then we have gas tax, which is the original gas tax, which is 1.35, and then 1.35 from Measure A. So,
Yeah.
and those, what we're talking about here is our enhanced roadway maintenance. So this is roadway construction. We also have some additional funding that we use for our staff, for our maintenance staff, and that's outside of this conversation, but is part of the budget.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, do we have any requests to speak or written correspondence?
No, Madam Mayor, not on this item.
Thank you. If there aren't any more questions, thank you for the presentation, Mr. Flagoni, and this will be filed.
Welcome.
Thank you. Moving on to regular business, Madam Clerk, could you please read the title?
The City Council will consider making amendments to the 2023-24 mid-cycle city budget and receive 2 presentations on 2 citywide initiatives, Smart City, Safe City, and Neighborhood Connect.
Okay, staff report will be made by City Manager Mrs. Stillwell with coordination of Mary Harvey.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and members of the City Council. So tonight, we're here to consider amendments to the 2-year budget previously adopted on last June. Council adopted the biannual budget last June. This is an update of the year 2 of the budget to reflect economic changes, changes in revenue, and changes in service. The topics of discussion tonight will be an overview of the economic factors, a look at the general fund revenues and the Measure U revenues, proposed amendments to the budget, future issues, presentation of 2 new programs, questions from the council, public input and comment, and then council direction and adoption of the budget. Looking at the economy is slowing. The recession concerns remain. The tight labor market's cooling in the face of higher interest rates. The first quarter gross domestic product decelerated to 1.1% as the housing market slowed and business reduced inventories. This follows the 2.6% rate from October through December and 3.2% from July through September. The Federal Reserve raised key interest rates 10 times in 14 months with the goal of defeating high inflation. Inflation has slowed to 4.9%, which is much lower than the 9.1% it was last June, which was close to a 40-year high. California's unemployment rate is 4.4%. As far as what that means for revenues to the city, sales taxes are projected at $32.2 million. That's up $880,000 from the adopted budget. Sales tax is the city's primary revenue, and through the third quarter, receipts were about 8.1% or $1.8 million higher compared to last fiscal year. We continue to see steady property tax growth as the housing market continues to remain strong. The projected fiscal year increase in property tax revenue is $275,000, and through the third quarter, our property tax revenues were up $850,000 or 6.9%. The median home prices in Santa Maria are now nearly $600,000, and the housing market remains strong according to the Association of Realtors, the Santa Maria Association of Realtors. The sale to list price was 99% as of April 23rd. That means that people selling their houses are getting the asking price. And the median selling price was $600,000 through April 23rd compared to $625,000 a year ago. So we're seeing higher interest rates are lowering prices a bit, but the prices remain strong. Inventory remains one of the primary constraints. There are fewer properties for sale now than there were a year ago. Hotel tax, the transient occupancy tax, we project an increase of $1 million from the adopted budget, and that reflects travel rebounding following the pandemic. Our local hotels did suffer some tough years, but we're pleased to welcome more guests. We're seeing higher daily night stays and then higher rates for those stays. So overall, the anticipated revenues, the estimate this year for the general fund is $88.5 million. The council's previously adopted 2023-2024 budget was $87 million. We're now looking at $3.9 million more, so the proposed revenue for next year is nearly $91 million. The vast majority of this increase is the hotel tax revenue that's up $1 million and the sales tax up $880,000 as a result of continued increases in prices and rebounding consumer demand as pandemic restrictions ease. How we propose to appropriate that money in the general fund. So this year we anticipate ending the year spending just over about $86.2 million in the general fund. For next year, the council's previous adopted budget was about $89 million in spending, and now we're projecting nearly $91 million in spending. It's an increase of $1.9 million. What this means to our local economic augmentation fund, the LEAF, we began drawing on the LEAF in 2008, 2009, and we are drawing $8.9 million from the LEAF, about $2.8 million more than what was previously adopted by the City Council for next year. Of that $8.9 million, $2 million is for general fund operations and $6.9 million is for capital. The goal in developing the budget is to follow the council's direction, maintain a balanced budget, and provide services that can be funded within our ongoing revenue. And the City Council did adopt a year-end fund balance policy that calls for setting aside any year-end savings to add one-third, one-third, one-third into the LEAF, into investing into capital improvements, and to set aside for pension cost increases. So the city estimates that we will deposit $2.3 million into the LEAF at the end of this year, in June 30th, 2023. And that would be consistent with the council's policy to maintain and rebuild reserves. And as departments begin to fill vacant positions, we are anticipating less year-end fund balance in the future. Part of the reason we had the year-end fund balance is because we had difficulty hiring positions earlier this year, finding we had a number of vacancies more than normal. And now we're seeing our vacancy rates back to where they have historically been. As far as Measure U is projected to generate $27 million in its 5th year of being a 1-cent sales tax. City's very fortunate to have Measure U to maintain and enhance public services. The Measure U transactions and use tax received more than 74% of voter approval. And we are directing the revenue. The revenues directly supports 183 of the city's 726 full and part-time positions. That's 25% of the workforce, or about 1 in 4 employees. The, sorry about that. Let me look at my other side here. Oh, that's not even better. So, yeah, the Measure U, and the estimate this year is for the revenue to be $27 million. The original budget for next year was $26.4 million, and now we're estimating $26.9 million. For the spending of Measure U, the council's direction was to prioritize 90% for public safety, 5% for youth, 5% for quality of life. And the the 5% for youth, one item of note there is that includes Sunday hours at the main public library starting in July 2023. The 5% for quality of life is a new code enforcement officer included in there. And for public safety, it includes 9 police officer positions with funding restored to 2 of them, the two police service technicians. The budget also provides funding for 9 firefighter positions for the SAFER grant, to continue the SAFER grant, and that's 100% allocated. And then the fire department also will have the increase of a training captain, funding $200,000 for security cameras for fire facilities, and $245,000 for the design and preliminary engineering of a new fire administration building, as well as some vehicle purchases and body cameras and tasers for the Rangers. Measure U by category. So this is the 90% of the Measure U is $32.2 million, and you'll see it's $12 million to police, $18 million to fire, $1.9 million for recreation and parks for the Rangers, and $146,000 for library security. The youth services total $1.8 million, which is nearly $1 million to recreation and parks, and $900,000 for library for the youth services. Quality of life is also $1.8 million of Measure U, which is allocated to recreation and parks, the library, and community development, which was where code enforcement is. The $166,000 for the city manager's office there is through our communications reverse 911 system. The how we balance the budget this year, we started with the $10.9 million structural gap, and we used $8.9 million from the Measure U reserves and $2 million from the general fund LEAF reserve. Proposed amendments overall, so the appropriations for all operating funds are recommended at $276.7 million. That's up from the $264.9 million, which was previously adopted by the City Council. For all funds, which is the general fund Measure U, the 3 enterprise funds, special revenue funds, appropriations are $357.4 million, an increase of $20.5 million over the previously adopted council budget. And for enterprise funds, you see the Water Resources Fund will be $75.5 million, solid waste at $39 million, public transit at $19 million, and our radio fund just under $1 million. We touched on the American Rescue Plan Act funding last meeting, but just to reiterate it here, the city received about $37.2 million in one-time federal funds. They are not considered part of the 2023-2024 revenues as they're a separate federal grant. We have various projects approved by the City Council at various stages of planning and execution. and following the council's direction to reimburse costs incurred due to COVID pandemic, to invest in one-time funding in projects that can increase revenue but reduce ongoing costs, and to strengthen the city's financial position. Proposed staffing changes, proposing authorized positions of 650. 625 of those are funded. We propose 34 new positions in the budget. 19 of those 34 are funded, and 1 new part-time position that is funded. The authorized but not funded positions include 7 police officers, and 2 fire captains, 2 engineers, and 2 firefighters. The funded positions include the fire captain, the training captain, 2 police service technicians, 2 police officers, a number of staff in utilities and public works, and then in recreation and parks, a maintenance worker to help with the SB 1383 mandate. In library, it's proposing 2 part-time security officers for library security and safety. And there's a part-time PEG position converted in the city manager's office for meetings, and a proposed unfunded position also added in the city manager's office to provide budget flexibility. So to highlight the changes, overall, the city's modestly expanding public services, projecting additional revenues, but able to balance our structural budget deficit. Service levels are maintained with the 34 new full-time positions, 1 part-time position, but no layoffs anticipated. The general fund appropriations are $2 million over the estimated revenues, but the budget's balanced using the one-time rainy day reserve funds. We aren't able to financially restore all the previously approved employee reductions or to approve requested enhancements other than those that were necessary due to the rising ongoing costs. We are depositing approximately $7 million cumulatively into the LEAF, the Capital Projects Fund, and the pension reserves. And the general fund structural deficit slightly larger at about $11 million from what we had projected at $10.8 million. So we still have that large list of unfunded commitments that was on page A29 of the adopted budget. One of them was roads and sidewalks, which you heard a presentation of just previously. It also includes the pension liabilities, maintaining our facilities, maintaining our insurance and workers' comp, and other costs that we have that we aren't fully funding at this point. Some future issues, just for context for the City Council. The fee adjustments, the City Council adopted the fees to the 50% level. The recommended amount would produce an additional $767,000. The council asked for that item to come back in the future. The council also asked for leisure fees to come to the council. We're doing the analysis of what the actual costs are of the fees, and we'll bring forward to council particular ranges that you can adopt for those leisure fees. That includes the recreation and parks and library fees. And rather than having a myriad of different costs for those, it was my understanding the council direction was looking at how to recover based on the type of services they are, and recognizing some have more public benefit and should be subsidized further than others. I've also talked to the council about the landscape maintenance costs. Our 4 landscape districts have been created several decades ago, and if they've grown, their revenue has shifted in a way where it's important for the council to look at the sustainability of that and pivot if the council desires, whether it would be to reduce the services to keep those landscape districts funded and solvent, whether it would be to increase taxes or to do something different, such as expand the landscape districts throughout the city and including the parks. CalPERS also remains a future issue, and I'll touch on that on the next slide. Workers' compensation is an ongoing challenge in California, in particular on the Central Coast, where workers' compensation law in California is very particular about the process and the medical providers that the that are used in the system, and we're, being on the Central Coast, have fewer options than other parts of the state, but even then, there aren't many options for workers' compensation. So that's an overall broad challenge we have. For us in particular, though, the departments and HR are doing great work on reducing workers' comp incidents in the first place. That's a priority for us to keep our employees safe, not have them get hurt on the job in the first place, and then also to recognize ways to have them heal and get back to work quicker. So those things will reduce our workers' compensation costs, even though it's an overall challenge in the state. We're also seeing insurance costs increase sharply, and you're seeing that where a couple of the big insurance providers are no longer insuring homes in California. So we're seeing some upheaval with insurance overall, and cities like every other entity in California facing insurance challenges. I mentioned capital funding remains a challenge. You heard about roads on the previous presentation. We're also, with facility maintenance, I talked to the council about the fire station expansion. If that was something you would want to finance and start financing for facility improvements, that would, for example, cost $500,000 or so a year in payments rather than the $6 million drawn from the reserve. So it's a option for you for capital funding to look at funding some of that over time. And then city council salaries, as you'll recall, the council increased salaries in January 2023, and then in March discussed whether to adjust salaries and directed to bring that item back in the mid-cycle budget. And so that's an option for the council to discuss as well this evening. As far as CalPERS, so the pension costs continue to just rise significantly. CalPERS payment for 23-24, this upcoming fiscal year, is about $24 million. It was, just for comparison, $5.6 million in 2005-2006. Of course, every dollar that is paid toward CalPERS is a dollar less for wages, compensation, and services to the public. But the CalPERS payments we're making are a commitment that the city's made to its employees past and future. One note of CalPERS is with the PEPRA modifications in 2023, CalPERS is now able to increase the rates on our employees directly without having the city do that. And so we'll see our PEPRA employees have cost increase or more reductions from their paychecks starting July 1. We also anticipate employees having more reductions from their paychecks for health insurance later this fall, and with the increase in January 1. So that's just context as far as you're hearing from employees and we're negotiating with employees. Those are two costs that our employees are going to experience here in the upcoming period of time. So additional changes. These are changes we recognized after the budget was put together and disseminated. One is the fire station #1 expansion. It has a total project cost of $10 million. That's substantially more than was originally projected and adopted due to increased costs for raw materials, labor costs, and just the significant cost of construction increasing that we've seen. The fire station currently has $4 million previously allocated in Measure U. It's important to realize there's another $6 million that's not appropriated. It's not in the budget charts, it's not in the numbers I presented, but it is an important project, so we're putting this on the table and have included it in the budget resolution to fund the extra $6 million, but of course it's city council discretion. If you just adopt the budget resolution as presented here, that would draw the additional money from the LEAF. We could, as I indicated, you can also look at financing that project, and that would be about $500,000 a year or so. We could fund from Measure U, we could seek grants, or we could potentially reduce other expenditures in the budget if there's particular reductions the council sees that you would want us to focus on reducing to prioritize the fire station. The other is the increase in liability insurance costs. This one's a little bit better news. I mean, it's a significant cost increase of $800,000, but we do have an insurance fund, so that's an increase in the appropriation in the insurance fund, and then the departments will reimburse that through rates. So it isn't a direct general fund expense, but something that we are recommending increasing the appropriation in the insurance fund.
Mr. Escobedo?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Question, can we go back to the appropriation slide? Yeah. So that $800,000 will not come out, the recommendation is for those not to come out from the LEAF fund. Is that right?
Right, the $800,000 would not come out of the LEAF fund directly. So we need the additional $800,000 appropriation in our insurance fund, and then that is charged back to departments through the rates,
Gotcha.
through internal rates.
Okay, thank you.
Does that mean we get reimbursed?
No, it's just the departments who are being insured cover the costs. So it basically cost allocates the insurance cost, so all the different funds pay for it, Measure U pay for it. So if it's a fire station, for example, it's likely Measure U and general fund would pay for that since it's a public safety facility. Or if it's in utilities, then utilities would pay for it. So just next steps. So next we want to highlight our Smart City, Safe City vision. We've heard from the council and Assistant City Manager Hackelman will expand on this, that a number of the priorities and projects and initiatives the City Council has undertaken recently is with the goal to have the city do things smarter and to be safer for our community, both today and in the future. And so Mr. Hackelman will present that. And then we'll give you a taste of our Neighborhood Connect project that we're recommending unveiling that we think the council will be excited about. And then after that, we'll have council questions, receive public input and comments, and then direction to staff.
Good afternoon, Madam Mayor and council members. Just as City Manager Stillwell mentioned, we're going to talk about a couple of really exciting programs here that staff has been putting together as a result of council priorities. And they're different, but they're actually very much related, and I'll try to weave those together for you as we go through these presentations. I have a couple of fellow staff members that are going to present on part of these. The first one is Smart City, Safe City. And this is an effort to meet our growing population needs and to create more opportunities to prosper for our residents here in Santa Maria. And coming up with this initiative, it's really a look at the priorities that the council has already decided on through the budget process and through strategic planning, and the decisions that have been made to use resources to improve the community through a variety of services, and we're going to walk through those. And you'll also notice it's an effort to rebrand and to kind of project out to our residents what the council is doing and how we're providing these services and how they work together to efficiently use tax dollars and to deliver services in a way that is effective and meaningful for our residents. So when you look at most of the things we do, the common theme of why we do them is to be smarter and safer as a community. That is a really important priority for the city of Santa Maria, safety and making things easy and accessible for our residents. The evolving plan ensures that we put the best interests of our community first, because it's the families and our businesses that keep the heart of Santa Maria beating. The reasons here that we're doing this is pretty simple, and it's very consistent with the long-standing set of priorities that the council has had for staff and that have been demonstrated through the budget, which is really the important way in which our city and our council delivers the services that our residents enjoy. So enriching the quality of life, and you can see up here up on the slide, improving and cultivating safety. This is a really important priority for our city. And efficiency. That's an important part. It's our city's mission is to deliver effective and efficient services at a low cost. Embracing innovation. There's also, and it's also community driven. All right, and as part of this initiative, we kind of had a mission as we went about doing this to foster the current and future foundation for economic growth, prosperity, and sustainability with innovation and technology. And our commitment is to continually build and sustain a better Santa Maria. Some of our Smart City, Safe City programs we have provided for many, many years, while others are new and reflected in this past 2-year budget and this amendment here that the council is considering this evening. So all of these programs that we're going to talk about today are initiated by, prioritized by, and supported by the City Council. You've approved each and every one of these items. And this, again, is a way in which we're working really hard to be able to communicate all the things that are happening and all the things that are going to happen that mean great service and safety for the residents of Santa Maria. Now, we've collected all of these things into a vision and really kind of a rebranding of Santa Maria, looking at it through this lens of doing things smarter and safer. And it defines who we are as a city as well. This is a long-term strategic effort, so this isn't just simply kind of a presentation before the council. We're actually going to be asking the council about moving this initiative forward and putting it facing towards the public and to put it into use and to make it something that we use to communicate to our residents. And it's to satisfy the ongoing need for our growing customer base. The city of Santa Maria has been a fast-growing city, and we anticipate that it will continue to be a growing city with a younger population. So smart, what does it mean to be a smart city? Smart city technologies and practices help Santa Maria operate more efficiently while improving services to residents and businesses. We offer a wide and growing assortment of tools to put money back in the pockets of our residents by creating efficiency in our daily operations. As a consequence, this is also kinder to our environment. Sorry, I went too fast here. All right. So some examples of smart for Smart City, Safe City are apps that we've implemented here in the city, public access to Wi-Fi. The council on many, many occasions has requested that we prioritize and fund and move forward on broadband initiatives, and they're almost too numerous to count. High-speed fiber optic lines, Santa Maria is a leader in providing a high-speed fiber optic network. We have the fiber ring around the city, and we're moving that to important locations within the city all the time. Computer kiosks, smart meters that we use in utilities, our electric bus fleet. We're a leader in that realm in the nation, in fact. I think we'll be the second city to go all electric for our bus fleet. And there's so many more examples of smart city. And I actually want to tie this to a briefing that we heard earlier on pavement management. So the way that the council has prioritized pavement management and maintaining what we do have is an important aspect of Smart City, Safe City. So it's both smart in the sense that it reduces impact to vehicle wear and tear for our residents. It's a critically important part of our infrastructure. And it's also related to safety, allowing our first responders to have safe and easy access over the roadways as well as our residents. There we go. And just like we talked about what it means to be a smart city, what does it mean to be a safe city? Safe city means more than just crime prevention. It includes faster emergency response time, police text alerts, which we have in place, and proactive traffic plans to prevent accidents, increased access to vital services, and ensuring we are better prepared to serve everyone who lives in Santa Maria. So who benefits from Smart City, Safe City? So it's going to be anyone who lives in, works in, or visits the city of Santa Maria. they'll see the positive ripple effects that Smart City, Safe City provides. It's, as I've mentioned and foot stomped a couple of times, it's our way of being able to simply and effectively communicate to our residents the things that they have access to and the way in which the council prioritizes resources to deliver services. And these things include new bikeways, safer intersections, to conservation efforts like LED true color streetlights, electric buses. These projects are all here to ensure that the quality of life for residents is as good as it can possibly be today, but also looking into the future as our population continues to grow. So what changes? So does this mean that the city of Santa Maria hasn't been smart or safe before? No, the Smart City, Safe City initiative does not mean that we're a perfect city. So it's about continuous improvement, and it's about communicating the things that we're already doing, the priorities that the council has, the things that we're going to be doing in the future. As Santa Maria grows, we'll continue to enhance our services to meet the needs for the future. It is a future-looking program. For enhanced public safety, among many examples, we use evolving technology to more efficiently dispatch responders. And I think you're well aware of the priorities that we've had to use technology to stop crime and to track down those who committed. And we have, a network that continues to grow of license plate readers, many other technological tools that our police department and fire departments use. And for smart services, we have a growing list of advanced tools that help our residents become more efficient and reduce our environmental footprint. So I'm going to transition here to let Mark, Mr. Mark Vandekamp, talk to you about the logo that was developed with a partner of ours, as well as a short video and some exposure to the website that we want to launch publicly. So, Mr. Vandekamp.
Thank you, Mr. Hackelman. Good evening, Mayor and Council. It's a pleasure to be here. We're really excited about this great tool that, frankly, you dreamed it up, and we're just here to present the work that you put your vision into reality. So the next slide is to show and unveil for the first time our Smart City logo and tell you, well, what does it mean? The two semicircles are on the sides signify technology and safety, and you'll notice that they also spell out the letters S and C for Smart City, Safe City. They're unified by this loop, which is the people and the innovation that creates a strong bond. And the color palette is carefully chosen. That matches our city colors, the blue and the gold. And the green represents our strong ties to agriculture and commitment to the environment. Blue, of course, also signifies trust, responsibility, loyalty, and authority. Green represents harmony, growth, freshness, and energy, which this city has plenty of. And the gold expresses happiness, optimism, creativity, and intellect. So this is our branding of our great city, Santa Maria Smart City, Safe City. And tonight, we can go to the next slide. We are pleased to also premiere to the City Council and to the public two of the videos explaining Smart City, Safe City. So these are only a minute long. And you may not have any movie popcorn, but I think you might have a bit of sustenance there. This is like a movie trailer, and we're going to show you the English version and then followed immediately by the Spanish video.
As Santa Maria grows, so does the need for fast and reliable services for our residents. Our Smart City, Safe City vision meets that need and improves your quality of life.
Smart City, Safe City provides easy-to-access services, rapid emergency and safety response, and a more connected living experience. Think streamlined and green transportation, public internet access, more parks, updated traffic and bike lanes, and diverse community projects. Smart apps, new electric buses, interactive maps, police text alerts, and online access to bill pay and program signups. All these enrich your quality of life, giving you peace of mind and save you time and money.
Smart City, Safe City is how your city ensures a bright future for your family and for generations to come. The possibilities are infinite, and they all come back to our community, to Santa Maria. Learn more at cityofsantamaria.org/smartcity. As Santa Maria grows,
A medida que Santa María crece, también lo hace la necesidad de servicios rápidos y fiables. Nuestra visión de ciudad inteligente, ciudad segura, satisface esa necesidad y mejora su calidad de vida.
Ciudad inteligente, ciudad segura, proporciona servicios de fácil acceso, una respuesta rápida ante emergencias y seguridad, y una experiencia de vida más conectada. Piensa en un transporte racionalizado y ecológico, acceso público a internet, más parques, tráfico y ciclovías actualizados, y diversos proyectos comunitarios. Aplicaciones inteligentes, nuevos autobuses eléctricos, mapas interactivos, alertas de texto a la policía y acceso lineal al
English,
pago de
then we'll
facturas.
do Spanish.
as Santa Maria grows, so does the need for fast and reliable services for our residents. As Santa Maria grows, so does the need for fast and reliable services for our residents. Our Smart City, Safe City vision meets that need and improves your quality of life.
Smart City, Safe City provides easy-to-access services, rapid emergency and safety response, and a more connected living experience. Think streamlined and green transportation, public internet access, more parks, updated traffic and bike lanes, and diverse community projects. Smart apps, new electric buses, interactive maps, police text alerts, and online access to bill pay and program signups. All these enrich your quality of life, giving you peace of mind and save you time and money.
Smart City, Safe City is how your city ensures a bright future for your family and for generations to come. The possibilities are infinite, and they all come back to our community, to Santa Maria. Learn more at cityofsantamaria.org.
The Spanish video next, obviously. We recognize we have a wonderful community of Spanish speakers, and we are making sure to cover all of our demographics with the Spanish version as well.
A medida que Santa María crece, también lo hace la necesidad de servicios rápidos y fiables. Nuestra visión de ciudad inteligente, ciudad segura, satisface esa necesidad y mejora su calidad de vida.
Ciudad inteligente, ciudad segura, proporciona servicios de fácil acceso, una respuesta rápida ante emergencias y seguridad, y una experiencia de vida más conectada. Piensa en un transporte racionalizado y ecológico, acceso público a internet, más parques, tráfico y ciclovías actualizados, y diversos proyectos comunitarios. Aplicaciones inteligentes, nuevos autobuses eléctricos, mapas interactivos, alertas de texto a la policía y acceso lineal al pago de facturas e inscripciones en línea. Todo ello te enriquece tu calidad de vida, te da tranquilidad y te ahorra tiempo y dinero.
Ciudad inteligente, ciudad segura es la forma en que su ciudad garantiza un futuro brillante para su familia. Las posibilidades son infinitas y todas vuelven a nuestra comunidad, a Santa María. Más información en cityofsantamaria.org/smartcity. A medida que Santa María...
Thank you.
Madam Mayor.
It wasn't public comment. Ms. Jessica Bell?
Thank you,
Any
Madam Mayor. I have this thing about during in the smart city, safe city. It's just a grammatical thing. Safe. In the translation, you put smart city as lista, and that's kind of like the logo. But during when they were talking, they were saying inteligente, which is actually the right one to use, ciudad inteligente, instead of lista. They get a different connotation. Lista would be more like ready. So yeah, I think that what they said was correct, but maybe just use either we're gonna use lista or inteligente. But that's I'm really excited about it.
Okay, thank you.
I agree with him.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
We will, so those are the two overall, I say, call them the movie trailers. We can make some edits to those. We also have prepared a wide variety of shorter video, also short videos that delve into the details of each of our programs. And we are not going to run through them all tonight because frankly, I didn't order breakfast for everyone. But we are going to be presenting those on the website, and on the next slide, we'll just show you a sneak peek of the website, which we have not launched just yet. That's pending your consideration this evening. We will have a Smart City, Safe City website, which you can see on screen, and this will have a video. It will contain detailed information about all of the programs, and it's easily translatable into Spanish. We have about 15, 16, probably going to get to 20 programs very rapidly. And we're going to be inviting the public to visit that website, and we're going to use that. We have a campaign teed up, ready to go, contingent on tonight, to get the word out to the community and effectively communicate what this great city is doing with this branding effort. And with that, I wanted to ask if you hand it back to Mr. Hackelman, and we can answer any questions if you might have at this time, or we can continue with the presentation coming up next.
Thank you, Mr. Van de
Thank you.
Kamp. Any questions of council? None? Oh, Mr. Cordero.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. Hackelman, I apologize for not asking you this earlier, but just in a very simple answer, how much of all this stuff that's going on is technology related? Is it just seems to me like there's a lot of technology going on here that we're using. So what is your comment back to me, and how much of this is technology driven?
Well, I would say that there's a significant percentage that's technology driven, and a lot of that technology is aimed at providing simpler, more efficient ways for residents to do business. So think of like electronic bill pay. But then there's other examples of technology like the electric bus fleet. And then yet other examples in public safety where, maximizing our police resources. So whereas tasks that might have taken detectives many days can be done in seconds through what Commander Cohen's put together with the license plate reader program.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Any other questions? Mr. Escobedo.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm just, as I mentioned before, I'm excited about technology, but one thing that I am excited about the most is that our community will be able to have a better experience connecting with our resources, which is, since a long time ago, I think there's this gap. So I'm looking forward to see what, hopefully, I know that hopefully we'll support is going on. I'm definitely supportive of it, and see how we can, just I'm particularly the reporting on your cell phone. I think that's something constantly we receive requests to talk, so how we can maximize those resources. So thank you.
Thank you, Council Members Cordero and Escobedo. So just as I mentioned, I think this is a good opportunity to emphasize the point that both of you are making. So it is an opportunity for residents to, enhance their quality of life, to make things simpler, hopefully cheaper in some cases, save them time. But it's also about efficiency, allowing the city to operate more efficiently. It's also about, bringing together and communicating to residents how resources are being used within the city to provide the services that the council's making decisions on, right? So it's about doing our best possible job at communicating the things that the city's doing to deliver high-quality services. So it's a way to get that word out there and get more residents to take advantage of all these things.
Madam.
Yes.
Just came another question in regards to one of the concerns that I've been receiving. It's in regards to the trees on this, and sometimes they destroy our sidewalk.
Mm-hmm.
So, is that into consideration in this smart city initiative on how people maybe can report, straight to us, say, in this area? Because, I mean, we cannot be in 24/7 all over the city, and you were mentioning about how to better utilize and be more efficient. Is that into consideration in this Smart Cities initiative?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, it's a really important component of Smart City, Safe City, and just here in a minute, we're going to introduce to the council what we think is a really, really important and effective tool at allowing residents to do just that. So it's a program that we've been piloting, and we've heard feedback from council members on the need to provide for an easy way for residents to give feedback to the city. So for non-emergencies, so 911 is always the number to call if there's something that's happening that needs an emergency responder. But when it comes to things like trees that are damaging sidewalks, creating potentially a safety issue, maybe it's abandoned shopping carts or a homeless encampment, any number of these other non-emergency issues, we've noticed, and you certainly hear from constituents, we hear from residents every day about a variety of issues. And there are things that we set out to do work on to correct those situations. But it's not always easy to know who to call, right? And so we want to provide residents an easy kind of one-stop shop to be able to provide that feedback. Hey, I need this issue addressed in my neighborhood, or they notice something downtown. And so this tool is certainly a critical part of Smart City, Safe City that allows residents an easy way not only to provide that feedback or to communicate an issue that needs to be resolved, but also to interact with it, and interact with the city in a more effective and engaging way, where they can see their issue be acknowledged by direct communication to them, but also to watch it being tracked through the process as it's being addressed by the applicable department that's working on their issue. And then getting the loop closed with them, that feedback loop closed, where when the issue is resolved, they're notified about it. And they know as it's going through their process what they can expect through the process. And it's also an opportunity for us to communicate about the city council's priorities when it comes to, let's say it's a pothole, right? So it's an opportunity for the city to communicate about the council's priorities for our budget and the significant increases in investment that the city council's making in maintaining our roadways. And it's also an opportunity to communicate to the public the way in which Public Works goes about prioritizing and fixing these issues. And of course, they need this input from the public as well, because they don't have everyone out there all the time looking at every road. So this information is important to Public Works as well. So yes, by way of a fairly long answer to your question, it's an important part of Smart City, Safe City, and it's part of what we're asking council to consider, allowing us to kind of push out there more broadly to the residents of Santa Maria. And you're going to hear from Dawn right now about the testing that we've been doing for a program that our IT department has done in-house. So it's a really exciting project. Dawn?
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Patino and council members. I'm here to introduce this project that Mr. Hackelman has been discussing called Neighborhood Connect, and it's a system that we have developed in-house within the Information Technology Department here in the city. Neighborhood Connect is an easy-to-use tool that allows people, our residents, visitors, workers, to report non-emergency issues that go directly to city staff in Santa Maria. It's available now on your smartphone, tablet, or desktop computer. So how does this work? Could you go to the next slide? This is our Neighborhood Connect hub, our initial web page, if you will. And it explains that we're interested in understanding issues around the city that are non-emergency in nature. And it sort of describes that we need our citizens, our residents, to be our eyes and ears and help us resolve issues around the city. Can you go to the next one? This is how it works. There's really 4 quick steps. Join our community, and do that by just submitting reports. Report the issue. We give you a simple form. I'll show that to you really quickly. That report, depending on the type of issue, it could be an abandoned vehicle, it could be an abandoned shopping cart, it could be graffiti. Depending on what type of issue, it goes directly to the staff member in the city who handles that issue. So we've worked that out already. And then they simply complete the work and report back to the individual who submitted the report originally. Next slide, please. This is the area where you submit a report further down on this hub site. You can submit a report in English or in Spanish. And we also want it to be kind of a one-stop shop. So if you're not comfortable doing it digitally, we put the hotlines on there so that you can call on the phone. Or there's a confidential code enforcement form there that you can use instead. But if you do submit a report, let's go to the next slide, you're going to go to our Neighborhood Connect reporter. And this will be in English or in Spanish, depending on what button you clicked. And here, all you have to do is you can get some information about how to use the site, or you proceed as a guest. Next. That brings you to the reporter and all of the different categories of issues that can currently be reported. Now, this is just the start, and we hope that there'll be additional categories further in the future. But you can see there's street tree issues. Say there's a limb that's down near your house, or say there's some graffiti or an abandoned vehicle nearby. So you would click on the category that makes sense to you to describe your issue. Next. And then this smart form comes up, and you just put the information in there. You can put your name and email if you wish. You don't have to. You can be anonymous. But if you do put your name and email in, then we can contact you and let you know that the issue has been resolved or what the status is. And then you would put in the location. Now, if you have your cell phone, you just click that little button there on the right-hand side, and it's going to get your location automatically. Or you can also put in your address in that little form there, or you can click on the map. You can put in photos and then click on, at the bottom, you're not seeing it here, but there's a big green button that would say submit a report. And that's basically all you have to do. That information is channeled, as I said, directly to the city staff member who handles it. Now, internally, we have the Neighborhood Connect manager. And this is what people, city staff, internally see. They can see all the reports, and if they click on one, on the left-hand side, they're going to get all the information. They can put comments in there so that the person who submitted the report can go back in and look at what the status is. And there's also a status bar there that says submitted, orange, received, in progress, and completed. And the colors change so that it starts out as a red dot and moves into a green dot when it's completed. So it's easy to see on the map where the reports are and what their status is. That's basically it. A one-stop shop that allows people to connect with the city to resolve their issues. And when? Now. System is up and running. Here's the URL, neighborhoodconnect.cityofsantamaria.org, or it's also on the first page of the city website. Are there any questions?
Any questions?
I do.
Ms. Soto?
Thank you. I noticed the different menu options that folks can report on, and I noticed that homelessness was on there, and so who would be the point of contact for that at the city?
Yeah, that is going to the city manager's office.
Okay.
Yes, and they are coordinating with the police department.
And then the police department is coordinating with who?
So the way that so this is kind of an technology for input. It would still go to myself, and then we have an internal city team that's made up of the police department, code enforcement, the rangers, and we also have a regular communication strategy meeting that we hold with the County of Santa Barbara and CityNet. They're a nonprofit partner that does case management, as well as Good Sam, who provides emergency shelter services. So once a report is received, so if, for example, the mayor were to get a call about some challenging issue with homelessness, she may call to the office, and we would look into it, and we would take the same action if we received a report through Neighborhood Connect. We would put in action the same process of coordination within the city departments.
Thank you.
Okay, now, there are people that don't know how to use their apps on their phone. Excuse me. So would we be doing some outreach education? So say, for instance, maybe people at the Muscle Center would want us to come out and do something and show people how to use their app, maybe at the library or maybe one of the mobile home places. Are we going to be set up to do that?
Madam Mayor, that's a great question. So as we've been piloting or testing this program, the individuals that we asked and who volunteered to help us test it out, we provided them with training on how to use it. And so, if this is something that the council wants us to move forward with to put out more broadly to the public, then we would provide that instruction. But like was mentioned, there are some people that might not ever feel entirely comfortable with the technology, and so they can still use the phone lines or make a call to the city. But one of the important aspects of this is the kind of the tracking and managing of the issues, so that we can better ensure that the issues get resolved, and so that we can collect data too. So if we do get an issue that's through a hotline or through a phone call, we're still going to put it into Neighborhood Connect. And we have a resource within the city manager's office, an individual that is administering the program overall, that will help facilitate that.
Gosh, that sounds great.
Yeah. I'd like to say that this came from an idea, but really Andrew said, we have the GIS technology to do this. And that's kind of what started the ball rolling, so I want to commend Andrew for kind of opening that, door to rolling this out, because I think without the GIS technology, we wouldn't be able to get there. And I think we're already there. I mean, it was a matter of months. So I really want to thank all the staff who worked really hard, lots of hours, really hard work. But I think this is going to reduce the number of calls that the mayor gets, hopefully. And Escobedo and Cordero gets, and Soto. I will still get all the calls because people like to complain. But I think this is not only going to be a complaint system, but a solution system, right? So I really think this is a really good program, and I want to congratulate the staff for getting it done.
I just think it's great. I know I get emails or phone calls, and then I have to direct them to where they need to go, and plus going to our city manager. So this is really going to expedite, make everything much more efficient. Thank you.
Madam Mayor?
Yes, Mr. Cordero.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think there's absolutely, it's unequivocal that computers and the apps, and I didn't know what a QR code was until just here recently. I was afraid to order one up. I thought I'd be in trouble. The people that are going to be using this, and a wise person told me at one time when we first started going to computers, I didn't want one, and they called me over here and said, no, you're going to get one. And computers are great until the time comes, and I don't know that we're there, but I'm saying this to you folks because maybe we'll get there. They're great until we become a slave to the computer. So the computers and what they do and everything that Councilwoman Maribel was talking about is absolutely fantastic. And there's no question about the increased efficiency and all of these things. Well, if and when the time comes that we as a consumer or as an employee become a slave to the computer, I think something's happened and we've broken it and we're not doing it correctly or something. And I just ask you as one of the decision makers on that at the city level to guard against that, because I'm sure that it will somehow, somebody will come back to you and you'll think, maybe that's what Mike was talking about. And but it's just unquestionable as to how much progress this will bring to our community. And thank you all very much.
Madam Mayor, that concludes the briefing, and thanks Councilmember Aguilar Hernandez for helping us with guidance for the initial phases of this and the wizards over there and IT.
Really amazing. I also want to note that there are classes, tech classes being given at the Santa Maria Public Library on Saturdays, I believe, so you guys are already doing that. So I thought that was a good comment, but you guys had already thought of that, so thank you.
Yes, Mr. Escobedo?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just submitted my first report. No, just kidding. No, I was looking at the website, and it's just I like how easy it is to go through it. I mean, it's brand new, so I think it's a very good. And you, Ms. Dunn, she mentioned that you can also submit the report anonymously. So I like that also because. So one of the concerns of some of my constituents is that they would like to report some issues in the neighborhood, but they don't want to get into a fight or get some trouble with their neighbors. And I understand because I mean they live next to each other. So I think I like it. So thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Stillwell.
I do have a question about this. Do we separate the Smart City and the Neighborhood Connect and have a motion to approve them?
So thank you, Madam Mayor and Councilmember Aguilar Hernandez. So so that concludes our staff report on all of that. We're open to other questions. We recommend the council would accept public comment. And then there are two actions of the council. One is to adopt the budget resolution, and they're listed in your agenda packet. And then the second one would be to provide direction to staff for the launching of those two initiatives, Smart City, Safe City, and Neighborhood Connect.
Okay.
But I think we have comments on the budget, so I was thinking maybe we should separate them.
One item. Sure.
Okay. First of all, Madam Clerk, do we have any requests to speak or written communications?
Yes. The clerk's office has received one written comment from President of the Santa Maria Firefighters Local 2020, Matthew Kirchhoff, in support of the proposed budget amendments. And there are no requests to speak in chambers and none on Zoom.
Okay. So should we take the budget first or should we take the two initiatives?
I would like to take the two initiatives.
Okay.
No second.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, let me make the actual motion.
Make the motion before.
I move that we approve Smart City, Safe City Initiative and the Neighborhood Connect Initiative.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and second to approve the Safe City, Smart City, Safe City, and Neighborhood Connect. Any further discussion?
With the amendment to use Inteligente instead of Lista.
Perfect.
Okay. No discussion? That was easy. Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Councilmember Aguilar Hernandez.
Aye.
Councilmember Escobedo.
Aye.
Councilmember Cordero.
Aye.
Councilmember Soto. Madam Mayor Patino.
Aye. Okay, now on to the budget items.
See.
Ms. Hernandez?
Yes, I noticed that there wasn't any budget items for statutes, art, which the email from Matthew Kirchhoff kind of brought up, because He is asking us to allocate $250,000 in the budget for the construction of the Alvin Newton Memorial. So I would like to open that up to discussion, because I think it's important to beautify the city. There are certain areas where, like Battles, there's very little green. Railroad, there's very little green. It's just the wall. Statues, art, murals. That wasn't in the budget. What department would that belong to? And
Rec and Parks.
how can we allocate that?
Sure, thank you, Madam Mayor and Councilmember Aguilar Hernandez. So the City Council adopted an arts master plan. That includes the prioritization of art throughout the city. The council did not allocate funding for it, and they did recommend that we partner with a nonprofit. We did do that. We've partnered with Play as the nonprofit, and Play generates funding both through grants and through other donations to fund our public art. And we have consistently, as people can see through town, put new public art installations in town. We have one going into the Civic Center coming up soon as well, another mural. So, and we'll note the locations you mentioned and see where we can add art for those. As far as the particular art downtown, that one is included with that particular development project. So as that development project goes through, the developer will be contributing the funding for that particular piece of art, which will be approved by the Rec and Parks Commission as our Arts Commission, and by the Planning Commission for the development. So it won't require additional city funds.
Okay. And so how far are we along on this? On the bronze statue?
So I think they have, I'm not sure if they've submitted the development yet. We've conceptualized it and agreed on, I believe, what the public art
I didn't know
would
if
be.
we were just in the conception part or, yeah.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the council. The Alvin Newton Apartments is currently in review by the Planning Department.
Okay.
And it will make its way to the Planning Commission in the next couple of months. The specifics in regards to the memorial, there are some details that are to be defined, and we had a stakeholder group with family members of Alvin Newton and Firefighters Local 2020 and other stakeholders. We had several meetings over the course of this past 6 months, but there are some details that are to be defined, and we will be working with the applicant on the improvements and the costs of those improvements.
Okay, because it looks from this letter like, like it's already been, it's past the conceptualization portion. It sounds like it's already developed, it's already been designed and everything. So that's why I wanted clarification on that. Yes, Ms. Soto.
I would still like further clarification on,
Sure.
Okay.
Okay. I'm Herb Bolton, here's my cards, and I'm president of the RPEA, which is the Public Employees Association, Retired Public Employees Association. However, tonight, I'm here for the firemen. Now, this memorial that you're working on, we've had many meetings. We, the last meeting I had with the firefighters, we selected a contractor to build the statue. So we have moved forward. You haven't got the information yet, but we have moved forward and we've selected the contractor to do that. So we're moving on. So we are starting to the point where we need to put our money where our mouth is. We got to give this guy some money so he can start the design. Now, I would ask the council to do the same thing. Back us up. Okay, put your money where your mouth is. Tell us that you're going to support us with $250,000, and that will get most of what we need to make this memorial. And that part of this letter. The other part that you have in front of you was that he said that the firefighters' pay is currently 10% behind. We've done further investigation, and they're 14.8% behind. The average, not the top. They don't, not up at Los Angeles, San Francisco, any of that kind of stuff. We're 14.8% behind. Now, a few years ago, when the city was in trouble, the firefighters did not take a raise. They helped the city. Now, bring them back up to where they're supposed to be. 14.8% seems like a lot, but it just gets you up to the average. All right, that covers that part of the paper. This covers that part of the paper. You have any questions? Here's my cards. You can contact me anytime.
I do, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Mr. Cordero?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Sir, going back several months when the Vernon brothers were here to discuss the
project?
Redoing the memorial, which I agree with. In fact, there was a lot of dialogue here that I certainly don't think I could have participated if something wasn't going to be made right and whole with the fire department. But I understood that the Vernon brothers were upping the money for the change. And is that not the case after all, or did we ask for more than they could support?
You bring up a good point, and that the fire department does not own any part of that building. So they have no control over what that does. You guys do. And if during the process of doing the deed to have that building built, you put an easement or some legal term that the firemen can control that statue, the memorial itself, whatever they want to do with it, and make a responsible person, the president of the union, no matter who it is, that's in memorials, he would be the person in charge of this committee for the maintenance, upkeep, advancement, whatever it takes to keep the memorial current. Now, to that end, there's money involved. If you build the memorial and they sell the building and Mrs. Jones from Chicago comes and buys an apartment, some kids come along and damage that, you're going to say that Mrs. Jones in that apartment is going to have to fix the memorial? She's not going to want to do that. So if you make a committee and make it funded, make them responsible, give them the authority to take care of it. And if you like, right now, Matthew would be the president, so he would be in charge of the committee. But when he gets replaced, somebody else would. But that is a concerned, responsible person looking over this. If you want a little bit of history, look at the memorial that's there now with nobody in charge. The only way it gets maintained is some of the firemen and the guys in the academy maintain it. Nobody. When I went to the city and asked them about it, they didn't even recognize that it was there. So anyway, I'll get off of that soapbox. Anyway, the whole system, there's a hole in it. You need somebody in charge with the authority and responsibility of maintaining this, as you brought up. If you give, who are you going to give this money to? The money going to give it to me? It doesn't do you good. Okay, you can't give it to him. You can't give it to the contractor. You're going to have some place to put this. Somebody with the responsibility and the authority to do it. Anyway.
So the $250,000 is for maintenance, is what you're talking about, then, not a matter of building this thing, is that right?
Say that again, please.
There's this letter that Matt wrote is asking for the city to allocate $250,000 in the budget to help finance the construction of the Alvin Newton Memorial. Okay, the $250,000, is that aimed more at maintenance or at the building?
That is the creation, design. They have to make the mold, pour the mold, polish it, and bring it here. All that does to it. The contractor, as he would say, is that the contractor has said, if you will give us the footprint where this statue is going to go, we'll make the base for it. So the statue will go on the base. The contractor is going to do that. Okay? And so that $250,000 is just for the statue, the creation, the design, and transportation.
Madam Mayor?
Yes, Ms. Soto?
My question is directed to staff. If I remember correctly, Vernon Brothers got a significant discount, yeah, thank you, incentives for developing in the downtown. And so my assumption was that through those incentives, they were going to build the statue. And so now what I'm hearing, or what I'm learning based on this public comment that was submitted, was that Vernon Brothers is not moving forward with that and instead is asking Local 2020 to fork up $250K.
No, the last, Councilmember Soto through the mayor, the last presentation on this item to the council was the developer agreeing to this as a condition of approval. So it will be a conditioned aspect of the project. And as Mr. Wu mentioned, the project is still going through the review process, so none of this has been approved at this point. But it is anticipated to be a condition of the development, both to build it and to maintain it.
Yeah. So we need to go through the planning commission, and then it'll come to the city council. So it's in the process. Okay.
So is the condition going to be for $250,000?
So the condition was to work with the community to build the art. Mr. Hackelman, Mr. Wu, and the community had a meeting on that, and there was an agreement on what type of art it would be and the recognition of it, and the developers incorporating that into his project.
Okay. Yeah. Could you come over here and speak into the microphone, please?
So we can hear you.
I'm the former Mrs. Newton. My understanding is Vernon's group is giving $70,000 towards the statue. The fire department is going to earn money by benefits and whatever at some point. And the $250 that they are asking the city for is to help develop the statue itself, is my understanding.
Okay.
And that was a meeting we had a month ago.
Okay. Okay, as I said, the process is going through the planning commission. It'll eventually get to us, so that,
It has nothing to do with the planning commission.
well, it does. It does,
will
because it's a whole
eventually, yeah.
project, and it's over in that project. Yeah.
Have not got to the planning commission. The contractor, he said he washed his hands, but he said, you guys design it and we'll put it on a pedestal. And they really didn't want much to do with it.
Okay, well, Mr. Wu, yeah. Okay, I'm going to put it in your hands, Mr. Wu, and you can report back to us on the whole status. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Sir,
Yeah.
Madam Mayor,
Yeah.
you're welcome to hit me if I'm wrong here. And I get the feeling that you might be a little worried that something's going to drop here and it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
I don't believe this council is going to allow that to happen. That's my opinion.
Okay.
We're going to be at your side and your side throughout this process so that this thing, so that Mr. Newton, Fireman Newton, is properly recognized and represented at that site, okay?
Yeah,
That's what's going to happen. I don't know all of the particulars yet. I've met the Vernon brothers. If that's what they're going to come up with, then Okay, but I don't believe there's any worry for you. This is going to take place some kind of way. If they have to start doing barbecues out there, it's going to happen.
I'd like to
Thank
comment
you.
on that.
I believe it, but I just want to see something in writing. I'm going to die pretty soon. And the next person, like that memorial right now, not being up and maintained, I'm concerned that there isn't any legal manner, somebody in charge to make sure that doesn't happen again.
Well, I think you've brought that up, and thank you very much. And Mr. Newton, I'm sure, is also thanking you in his own way. So we're going to address that.
Please be assured that we hear you, and we are going to handle that.
Thank you very much.
Be confident that we are going to do that.
All right,
Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you for staying with us on it.
Yes.
So I would,
Yes.
Mayor, I'd like to, why couldn't we allocate at least half of that in the budget in the event Vernon only comes up with 70 or 125? Unless I can get a commitment of 250, I think we should allocate 125 in the budget to make sure that that goes through.
If I remember
Mr.
correctly, may I? If
Go
I
ahead.
remember correctly, back in
Yeah.
2021, 2022, when the city council had in front increasing, I think it was developer fees for funding the master plan. I think it was we were estimating 500,000. And so what I'm hearing Councilmember Marabella saying is we need to fund public arts. In this case, what I would suggest is let's look at the city budget to see how we can increase funding for recreation and parks and support the funding of the master arts plan and have that entity, that committee, ensure and support Local 2020, ensure that this memorial is established.
Okay.
Madam.
Yes, Mr. Escobar?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I do hear what is being mentioned, and that was brought up, and I do believe that art is important throughout the city and have everybody to have access to it. And just in this particular situation, we have a developer who has close to $1.3 million in incentive, who will be rebuilding and benefiting from building on that spot. And I wouldn't be supportive of giving $150,000 or $250,000 to responsibility to alleviate them from the responsibility or the commitment they made when they decided to apply for that project. Because if they're dropping the ball on something that is very important as recognizing the hard work of our firefighters, what's going to happen in the future projects? Are we going to be putting money aside to alleviate that responsibility from the developer? And moreover, the downtown constructions and development already have an incentive through the downtown program. So I wouldn't feel comfortable, or I wouldn't be supportive of allocating extra incentive in that sense. Thank you.
I think we're all in agreement. We want it to be done, and it's going to get done. It's just a matter of going through the process. And that's my position. We go through the process. We've all heard different things. I think we need to have something more concrete, and that's why I've asked Mr. Wu to make sure that we do have something concrete. I don't think there's anyone here saying we're not going to do it. We want to do it. We've said we're going to do it.
Right. And I agree with Councilmember Escobedo in the sense of there were significant incentives for Vernon Group or Vernon Brothers.
Yes.
However, those incentives are not just for that one development, it's for anybody who's wanting to develop in the downtown, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
So,
right.
But going back to the budget, I mean, I would still love to propose funding public art, increasing the budget for recreation and parks to support the master art plan and find a way to increase send some funding that way so that they
Okay,
can
and when
support
you
these
send
efforts.
funding that way, then you've got to take it from someplace else.
Right.
So, okay. Okay. Proposal? Let's talk about the budget, that we've got that done. And you'll come back to us and let us know what's going on, Mr. Wu?
Yes, Madam Mayor.
Okay, so that they will know. And let's talk about budget. Okay.
Is that a budget item?
What do you want? Okay, go ahead, Ms. Soto.
Okay, I'll start. Well, like I said, I'd love to see funding for public art in the city of Santa Maria. I've seen all of the incredible work that has been taking place, including the call out for public artists or local artists to come and support some of the initiatives that are in the master plan. And so I would be delighted, especially with all of the work that's taking place in downtown, or the planning that's taking place in downtown, to see public art definitely be highlighted, especially as we're looking at the possibility of a performing arts center coming into town. And so right now, we're at a pivotal point where we can really elevate our city through public art and incentivizing local artists to support that in happening. And so I know from what I remember, like I mentioned earlier, a lot of the conversations we had when the master arts, or when the public art master plan came forward, was looking at some developer fees. And so in looking at the revenue that is coming in, I was actually quite surprised to see TOT bringing in more revenue than actual fees or developer fees. And so from what I remember, also last meeting or a few meetings ago, when we were discussing the fee schedule and whether or not we were going to get full cost from the city from those fees, we opted to continue this slow transition phase. And so I would say if there's opportunity for us to look at the user fee, at the fee schedules, or to even see whether we can reallocate some funding from Measure U, from the Measure U reserve. That would go into youth or in high quality of life. So I would suggest for the meantime, the Measure U reserve.
Mr. Silwell, you want to comment on that?
Well, that's within council's discretion. We have 1.6 million unrestricted in the Measure U reserve, in addition to the reserve set by council.
I would suggest the 250.
250,000, okay. Ms. Harvey, did you want to make any comments to us? No, okay. Yeah, okay. Do you want to put that in the form of a motion then?
Well,
would I do that now?
Well,
Attorney?
yeah, so the
City Attorney?
action for the council would be to adopt that resolution for the budget, adopting the budget. There's 10 points on the resolution, and we could make that point 11 if the council desires to allocate $250,000 from Measure U for public art.
okay.
Okay.
I also, on April 3rd, we discussed city council salaries. I wanted to allocate, I saw that city council and the mayor got reduced $6,000. We didn't have our retreat this year, which was going to be, I believe, $15,000. And so I would like to allocate $104,000 to city council and mayor budget from the general fund.
How much?
$102,420
And that's for the budget?
for our city council and mayor budget.
And mayor budget.
Because we got reduced $6,000.
Okay.
General fund.
But where would we cut, are you asking, from the general fund?
It
To
would be
balance
a
it?
draw from LEAF then, or is there a cut reduction?
And may I ask a question?
Yes.
Councilmember Aguilera Hernandez? And also for city staff, my understanding is that if this is for council salaries, it wouldn't take into effect until the new council is in place. And so what
Correct.
budget cycle would that fall under?
Yeah, it would be, yeah, the start of, it would be 24, 25.
So it wouldn't fall under this
No,
budget cycle?
Excuse me, Madam
Go ahead, Mr. Cordero.
Don't we have a motion on the floor
No.
from you?
No, she
No,
didn't get,
we don't
put a
have a
motion.
motion.
No.
So we've gone from talking about the public art, and now we've added hers to that, is that correct?
Correct.
Correct. Yeah. So, so we can, if the council chooses, we can go ahead and approve the resolution with number 10 and add 11, the Measure U, money out of Measure U. And then Ms. Aguilera Hernandez put in city council,
Budget.
city manager and city council budget.
Why do we need that? I don't get why we're doing that.
We didn't have our retreat, which would have cost $15,000. So we got reduced, if you look at the budget, mayor and council got reduced $6,000. So we have negative money to have retreats for our resources that city council does. So I wanted to allocate 420 to all of us to have that as a resource to do trainings, leadership, our retreat, because that all costs money.
So maybe Mr. Stillwell can help me out here. Was it taken away, or is it just postponed? You know, we're still going to do the retreat, we're just not doing it when we want it to.
Yeah, but we don't have the money for
Yeah,
it.
no, the money, the change in the council budget was a change in workers' comp rates and liability insurance. So those adjust every year. You'll see some of the departments went up, some went down. Council happened to go down. So the
Yep.
15,000 in the retreat money is still in the budget.
Okay. Okay, so the 15,000 is still in the retreat, in the budget for the retreat. Okay.
So it would be for training and this kind of thing,
Training,
is that correct?
Yes. Yeah.
And it doesn't mean we have to use it, it's just allocated for that. And if we don't use it, then we can use it for something else.
And where would we draw from?
I think it's part of the city manager's budget of the 401-376, because we're out of that office.
And what would you suggest that we cut from the city manager's office?
I don't think we cut, it's just allocated.
Oh, but where would
Yeah.
we,
Where do we allocate it from?
right?
So the city manager's office is getting 401-376. So if we reduce from that by 102-420, that's what I'm proposing.
But the 401 is already budgeted for the GIS system, IT, workers' compensation, and $100,000 for staff development led by human resources.
Right, isn't there a staff person that hasn't been met?
Vacant funded staff person?
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, we have a business program leader under recruitment that's vacant, and then we're proposing adding the staff development of 100,000.
So that's $200,000?
And there may be possibility for us to possibly just postpone the hiring of some of the positions, save funding, and be able to fund what you're suggesting.
I think it's whenever we hire the person, right? Because we've been recruiting, from what I understand, for this position.
We have interviews, I think, this week or next week, Monday, yeah.
Okay.
Or would we be able to add funding, like it says here, 100,000 will be provided for staff development? Could we include staff development and council member leadership development and increase the 100,000 to
102.
more and increase it by 102 and draw that out from the leaf? If that's what, but we would need to, unless we're willing to cut something else from the 401.
I just think it's important that we develop the council, that we have our retreat, that we work together, that we have the resources. You know, I think that's really important, to have leadership development.
May I
Mr.
ask one thing?
Cordero?
Yeah, thank you. Mr. Stillwell, the budget as it reads, as we speak, the 102 that Councilwoman Maribel is talking about, if we don't do anything with that, that $102,000 doesn't disappear, it's there, right?
Well, the budget as proposed now is balanced with the caveat of we don't have the $6 million for the fire station. And then, as I understand, we're adding $250,000 for public art, drawing from the Measure U reserve, and then adding $102,000 without an offset. I heard reduce city manager's budget, reduce training, or add from LEAF. So you're starting with a balanced budget, so if you're adding more costs, you should offset them
And
to
that-
maintain a balanced budget.
Right, and then we still have the 6 million that we need for the fire department station.
I guess my question, sir, is by putting all these labels and things on it, are we making it more difficult and more complex, or are we making it easier? You know.
It's council's desire. I mean, so we presented a proposed recommended budget that's balanced, and the council has other priorities they want to add to it or adjust from it. And so that's within the council's authority to do so. Yeah, so it's not harder or easier, but, I mean, keeping the budget balanced will make it less hard, right?
Less hard.
Well, I mean, it gets harder if you're telling us to add more stuff without it being balanced. Then we don't understand which priorities the council would want to reduce, or if you want to, offset it with additional revenue or reserves.
You know, we had, almost 19 million in the LEAF, 2008, 2009, I think that's where we were. And then we had the Great Recession, and so we relied on that. That was a cushion for us. We relied on that to meet our budget, and yet we had to cut back. We've got the old police station there that we needed to do things with. We have the old library that is on a list of things we need to do, and I can't remember all the lists of things we need to do. So when you start cutting into the LEAF that we use as a cushion, and yet we have things that are on the to-do list over here, I guess I have a hard time taking anything away from the LEAF, because we've had to cut. We are just now getting back to having the library open on Sundays. That, to me, was a big cut. That was a cut into families in the community who bring their kids to the library on Sunday, and it's free, and they love it. So I'm having difficulty thinking how we can just take from the LEAF when we're not even back to all the cuts we made over the years. We have all these vacancies. We have a lot of vacancies.
We do have a lot of vacancies.
And we've not filled them all. And we've been adamant that we are still going to provide services to the people in Santa Maria. So, if you're going to put more into one budget, you've got to take from someplace else. And I want to see that LEAF built up, because, Mike, how many times we've had to use that for a cushion. And the Measure U is volatile. We know that. We don't know how that goes all the time. PERS has decided that they're not making very good investments, so then we are having to pick that up. And we have all these outside external forces that we have no control over. But people in the city of Santa Maria still want all their services. And we've sort of made a promise to that.
So along those lines, Madam Mayor?
Mr. Cordero.
Thank you. Along those lines, I'm concerned about funding something with the rainy day funds that we won't have when it rains.
And it's been raining a lot, right?
I don't know what it's going to be, but, several years ago, we had the pandemic. I have no idea what the next one's going to be. I don't know whether it's going to be next year or 5 years from now or 25 years from now. But what I assure everyone here, and I believe it's a fair assessment and prediction, something's going to happen. And we're going to need that. And whoever is sitting in these 5 chairs, as I've said before, will thank the people that were sitting in here before them, because that money is there to sustain us over those dry periods. So I'm very concerned about funding ongoing things with what I refer to as the rainy day fund or the LEAF money. And that doesn't mean we shouldn't fund it, but not from the LEAF.
So
Ms. Escobedo?
Go ahead.
So I think what I'm hearing is we want to fund it from the general fund. But I do have a question. The $6 million that we need for the firehouse, where is that money going to come from?
Yeah, that was the first nut to crack. So, and I think our 3 options that I alluded to, one would be to finance it, or find other revenue sources such as grants. The other would be, as proposed, if the council does nothing, it would draw from the LEAF if you keep it in the resolution. Or third, we can make other cuts in the budget to offset it.
So we wouldn't know until we have Jimmy Clayton, do another application for a grant, and because the last time he got us 2 fire stations at one time, and then we didn't know what to do. We didn't have the money at the time to put personnel in that second fire station, and that was a tough decision. We've got to take it, and I know we got criticism for building that second fire station, but we knew we needed it. So Jimmy Clayton's going to have to get busy there, Chief. Mr. Escobedo.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Do we have any policy in regards what's the minimum we need to have allocated in the LEAF fund? If so, how much?
Yeah, there's a policy for the economic reserve of 19.6 million, and the LEAF is 10.1 million.
10.1 million.
So right now would be kind of like in the the minimum of what we need to have in this.
So the budget as proposed kept the 10.1, and the fire station would draw below that 10.1 if the council allocates it from LEAF.
Yeah.
So we're talking about 4.1. And okay. And would that so one of the concerns they have is that we get money from, we as a city, when somebody look from outside to a city, they look at their finance in order to submit a grant, to submit some if having a reduce or below the policy fund money, the LEAF fund, would that affect our credit profile?
Yeah, the credit rating agencies do look at our reserve balance, and having the prudent reserve how we have has been important to credit rating. So I know the last one, when we did the refunding of the water bonds, it was important to understand what our reserve balances were throughout all the reserves, primarily the enterprise funds and water fund though. But yes, it is a factor.
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Cordero?
No, I don't have anything.
Okay.
So just to clarify.
Okay.
We're not going into the LEAF fund for the fire station, so that leaves us the option to finance it or to apply for grants.
So to have the balanced budget, you would need to have an offset. So, yeah, so it would be both, I think. So you would have the balanced budget drawing from the LEAF, directing us to try to find grant money. Right now, we don't have grant money, so we don't have revenue to offset the cost of it. Or you can delay the project until we find grant money. So leave it balanced as it is now, as proposed, without the 6 million, direct us to find grants. And if we find it, what we normally do when we bring a grant forward to the council, we bring the request for the increase of the appropriation to spend it. And we can do that with the fire station.
Mr. Escobedo?
So was it mentioned that we have some discretionary money at the beginning of this portion? It's like one, or did I mishear? Like 1 point something?
The Measure U, the 1.6 million in Measure U? Yeah, and that would be something we could use for the fire station.
So I mean, if we go to the round of financing, I know, you know, public arts and salary, those have been kind of like the requests have been, but, you know, fire station, maybe using part of that money to start the financing process. That's something that.
Use the 1.6 million?
Yeah, part of that, use it as the start of financing the fire station.
So then we would use the public art 250?
Would
I don't know who
that
would
takes
that-
away from the procedures of the past about approving something and having it paid for?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's, Santa Maria's always done that. When we purchased our police department and we cut that revenue in, it was paid for. When we did our library, and we were lucky there, and we got grants. When we cut that ribbon, it was paid for. The transit center on Boone Street, the same thing. When we cut the ribbon, it was paid for.
I think the Maldonado Center was the same. I think the Maldonado Center was the same.
Yeah. I guess, you know, I'm fine with the recommendations now and adding that number 11, taking the money out of Measure U to put it into art, and then looking for, and then putting that fire station at our top priority so that we can look for grants. And this takes a while anyway to figure out, and maybe other monies, and then the LEAF would increase by then also, hopefully, and figure out how we're going to do it.
I do have a question. What is the LEAF projected growth? Because I remember it was a 2.3 million deposit.
Well,
Yeah.
Thank you. Projected growth would be based on how much revenue over your expenditures you have each year. So in this current fiscal year, we're expecting about 7 million, and that's predominantly because of our staffing, right? We have a lot of vacancies. And we've had higher revenues. So the combination has created that. So that's about 2.5 million that we, 2.3 million, I think it was. 2.3 million, sorry, 2.35, I think is what it was, that we were expecting to put into LEAF this year. So, you know, that's probably, I mean, I don't know what's going to happen next year, so it's hard for me to say, oh, it's going to be that. We have been fortunate in that we've had higher revenues and we've had vacancies, but like we've all said here, and every director in here will tell you, we don't really want those vacancies because we do need those bodies to provide those services. So, it's kind of hard for us to project how fast that will grow. And we also have used it to fill those deficits when we do need them, so.
Okay. So I think what I'm hearing is we're not going to touch the LEAF, and we're going to draw from.
I am not in favor of touching the LEAF. I can't speak for anyone else.
Okay.
And CalPERS is another wild card out there too, because if they decide within a year or two that their contribution is going to be less, we have no control of that.
That is correct. We don't have control of when they change the rates. They do have it based on their investments. So when their investments actually are doing good, then they also drop the discount rate, which means it raises our contribution rates. So even when they do good, it costs us money.
So,
Okay.
motion to leave it out of the budget?
Well, I not put it in. Were you going to say something, Mr. Cordero?
No, ma'am,
Okay,
I'm afraid
yeah.
to say anything
Madam,
else.
yeah,
Yes.
just,
Okay, Mr. Escobedo?
yeah, Madam Mayor, just reiterate the idea of using some of the, instead of just putting everything on grants, starting financing. I think that's a look into the financing of the fire station, because we already hire the staff, if I recall correctly, to keep it, to staff it, you know. So, you know, look into that option. It's maybe use part of the Measure U funds, that $1.6 million to start that process. I would put that on the table to be considered. Thank you.
So what Measure U funds are you talking about?
Yeah, we do, I mean, we have Measure U fund balance, but if the council's desire would be to look at financing it, we can bring that back as a separate item. And so what I would hear, I think if I heard Councilmember Aguilera Hernandez correctly, it would be leave the 6 million out, and then bring back an item to propose including that, or funding that through financing. And so then the budget resolution, you would just exclude item 6, which is increase appropriations by the 6 million in the general capital project funds to complete the planned phase of the Fire Station 1 expansion, and we'll bring back an item to finance that item for the council's consideration.
Okay.
So, I'm sorry, and to Councilmember Escobedo's point, I don't think we would need allocation from Measure U at this point for that.
Perfect, thank you.
Yeah, I think that would be a good idea to just go through that and see what our options are and how we can get from point A to point B. Ms. Hernandez, you have a comment?
Yeah, so is that, I guess, I think I'm ready to make a motion.
Take a chance.
Yes. I think, is there something else to the budget?
So the motion in regards,
So the motion is 250,000 from Measure U.
Reserve.
Reserve, 102,420 from the general fund to mayor and city council, and that we exclude item 6 and bring it back to the council in a month, Jason? 8 weeks?
Yeah, I mean, we'd have to work with a financial advisor or some financing team to figure out when they can do it and get some numbers. We'd want to come back with you with some specific numbers and options.
So is 12 weeks sufficient?
I mean, we'll do it expeditiously.
Okay, so I would say the goal is come back in 8 weeks and at least get an update? Okay, so that's my motion.
We'd still need to articulate the source of funding for the 102,420. I understand it's within the general fund, but I'm not sure what the source of funding would be.
Wasn't there unallocated amounts?
So we allocate it all to the lead?
No, yeah, so I think we heard we didn't want, so I think we would do the city manager and I think there was another one.
so the $102,000 is $102,000.
Just allocated. It doesn't mean we're going to spend it, it's just allocated.
I like that part. And you have the 250 for the memorial in there.
Correct.
No, it's for
No.
public art.
Public
No.
art.
Public
I
art.
guess
That's what
we
it's
could,
going for.
From Measure U.
Yeah.
It's to fund the public art master plan.
Well, actually, we also actually have another projects, our projects before it was even the fire memorial was brought up. So I think that 250 will not be It's not already allocated for
No, it's
the
not
memorial.
allocated for
It's
the
just-
memorial.
okay.
It's just for
funding
public art.
public art.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that leaves Measure U at 1.4 unallocated, 1.3, thank you. So we could take money from that, I guess, the 102.
What would it fall under quality? What
Quality of life.
Quality of life?
Well,
Mr. Watson, you're, yes.
Again, you
No.
do have a citizen oversight committee that would come in and may raise a question of how that fits into that category. However, it is entirely within the council's discretion.
Which is why I think it'd be better if it came from the general fund.
but if we take it from general fund, that means that we'll need to take from other, someplace, right?
So that's why I'm saying this, we're in the city manager's office. So we combine the 102, right? If it's not if we don't use it, it's going to sit there and then the city manager can use it.
But if it's already appropriated,
He can use it.
at what point? At what quarter would we say, okay, it hasn't been spent and they can use it?
I would say the third quarter, second quarter.
I mean, something else that I would propose instead is, instead of, and I think what I'm hearing you say is there a possibility for us to, is there a possibility for us to delay filling that position to save that money and be able to use it for what is being suggested?
No, I think they're saying that they have an interview, right?
Yeah.
Right. So they can't,
So there's 401, of which, how much was already spent for the GIS analyst system?
So, yeah, and just to clarify, city council department budget is separate from the city manager's office budget.
Correct.
Right, yeah, okay. And so the city manager's office, of the 401 was the change in, so that was the addition, so we bought a Locution CAD RMS system for dispatching, fire, and police. And that 401 is an additional amount of money to fund the replacement of that when it becomes obsolete.
Okay.
shouldn't that come from Measure U? Because that's public safety?
It goes into our business replacement fund, so it's funded, yeah, that one came through general fund. There wasn't, well, Measure U for it. It could, though.
Yeah, that's my question.
Mr. Escobedo?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Sorry, I think that we're kind of like going, I feel like we're going around. I mean, I see public arts as something that definitely can come from the Measure U, and I would be supportive of that. In regards the 102,000, I mean, as it was mentioned, we get a Measure U oversight committee, and I just see it out of the putting it off. I don't know, just hard to. I would like to take it from the departments.
Right, so we're replacing it. That's the proposal, that they replace the dispatch, fire, police, and use Measure U money to fund that. To clear, how much is that?
The 401 is ongoing, for ongoing replacement of that system when it becomes functionally obsolete.
Right.
And the
so
Measure U has no available ongoing funding. It has the 1.6 million of unrestricted reserve, which council is proposing reducing by 250, and then we have the allocated 20% Measure U balance at the council, per council policy.
Right, but this is just an amendment for 23-24. We will come back in 24-25 budget and look at what Measure U money we have.
That would be for a brand new budget cycle.
Yeah, so you
Right.
can do it in
Yeah.
24,
Correct.
25. Yes,
Right.
that's correct. But if you're doing it in 23, 24, you would have to reduce ongoing Measure U spending in 23, 24. Or we can delay hiring the, yeah, I mean, you'd have to, it's ongoing costs is at my point on that.
Right, and so my question was, can we use the Measure U money to do the 401-376 in this budget cycle?
If it's, not all of it, but if it's offset with ongoing.
Okay,
Yeah, so we're
So-
talking one-time Measure U with the 1.6 and the Measure U reserve.
okay, so,
Well, and unless the 102, 420 is a one-time expense.
that's what I'm going to propose.
One time?
So the 102-420 to be, out of the 401-376, replace 102-420 with the 1.6 Measure U, a one-time or ongoing. So you're saying we can't do one time?
The
Because it's an
401 is
ongoing.
ongoing, and the 102,
Is
I'm
one
not
time.
sure if you're proposing it to be ongoing or one time. If you're proposing the 102, 456 to be one time, we could use Measure U to go into the business replacement for that amount and free that up from one-time Measure U fund balance. But if you're proposing that 102, 420 as ongoing, we would need to find other ongoing reductions in Measure U.
Okay. I think it's a one-time for now. We will, when we look at the next budget cycle.
How do we justify that out of Measure U?
For the locution replacement, so we would use the 102, 420 for the locution business replacement fund for the amount of, so it's still total 401, but 102, 420 would be from Measure U, and that would free up that 102, 420 of general fund that we would increase appropriation in the city council salary for the one time for 23, 24.
I don't think I would be in favor of a one-time
So you want it ongoing?
for council. I would much rather have the conversation about council salaries, if that's what we're discussing, at the upcoming budget cycle in 24, 25, 24 to 20, for 2024, 2026 budget,
26, yeah.
because that's when it would even be able to go into effect. And so I would say, to make sure that if that's what we want, if we want to see council salaries being increased in 24 and forward, I would suggest we can make a motion passing the budget as is with the other pieces that we've discussed, and then also making a motion that we increase council salaries for the next budget cycle. So that way it's an ongoing versus just a one-time.
Right, but we're reducing the budget by 6,000 for resources, for training, right? We don't have any money for training either, for leadership training and all that for city council.
It's still in there.
Because that includes state of, what is it? The League of Cities, that includes that.
Yeah, the base
that
budget
includes-
of the city council's budget is not changed. The only variance was the change of insurance rates, workers' comp rates.
Okay.
So I would say if the conversation is, let's increase the budget for council for the purpose of increasing salaries, I would say let's make a motion to have that be implemented in the 24-26 budget cycle. And we can have that conversation, but make sure that that is part of the budget at that point for future councils.
Does that work, Jason? Okay.
And then that way, we don't have to touch the LEAF now, we don't have to touch Measure U. You know, we see it, but what I want to see is that it's included in the budget for future councils.
Okay, so you want it agendized at a future meeting?
Budget meeting.
Budget meeting.
At the 24, for the
Yeah,
two-year
two-year
budget in
okay.
24-26.
Okay, so that has nothing to do with this budget?
Right.
Okay,
But we would still, we want to make sure that that is clear.
yeah.
Okay.
That way it's an ongoing. So
So the motion, I believe there was a motion going on.
Yes, so
I
the
can
motion.
If the council is ready for a motion, I can clarify, but if there's more.
Let me clarify,
Sure.
the motion is to allocate $250,000 from Measure U. Reserve. To
For,
public.
to
rec
recreation
and parks.
Okay.
for the
250.
for public art.
For public.
Art.
Public art. The master plan.
Looking for
Okay, public master plan.
Cross it.
And exclude
Number
item
6.
6, the appropriations come back in 8 weeks. Mary? So August,
Right.
does that work, Mary?
Yeah, you got that? Okay.
And then the follow-up would be status, and so that's in the budget resolution. Budget resolution, add that one item
Okay.
for the 250,000 for public art from Measure U fund balance, and delete item 6.
6.
And then the follow-up would be the status on the firefighter memorial, returning for fire station financing, and then adding city council salary increases to the proposed upcoming 24-26 budget.
Okay.
I have a question. Madam Mayor,
Yes, Mr.
this
Cordero.
is to discuss it.
Yes.
This is not a, they're not giving me more money or you more, they're not giving anybody more money. This
Just
is
me.
just, we're opening up the discussion.
Right.
Okay, I'll vote for that.
For council salaries, you mean?
No.
Yeah,
No.
you're not voting to raise the salary, you're voting to have a discussion about raising the salary.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, and this is for this resolution right now. So it's a resolution adding the Measure U reserve to 250,000 public art to delete item 6, and that's it. That's what we're voting on. Got it? Okay.
Second.
Okay, it's got a motion and a second. No further discussion. Okay. Any further discussion? Okay.
Well,
Okay.
well,
Hearing none, Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Councilmember Aguilar Hernandez. Councilmember Soto.
Aye.
Councilmember Cordero.
Aye.
Councilmember Escobedo.
aye.
Madam Mayor Martinez.
Thank
Oh,
you.
boy. And Madam Mayor, if I may add?
Yes.
Don't say
Yeah.
Mr.
In regards to public art, I, just to keep it, just a refresher, last year we, there were 3 council members that we request some, to look into a recognition for the migrant community in the future DeJoy Pocket Park. So that's just something that the neighbors are looking for, and to just keep you guys in the loop with that project. Thank you.
Madam Clerk, did I ask for public comment on that? I think I did early on. Yeah, I can. Okay. I wanted to make sure. Okay, and the next item will be a report by City Manager, Mr. Stillwell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council. Thank you for adopting the budget. I want to recognize Rick Kirkwood and Jennifer Chalmashevsky from the Finance Department, who did a lot of the work behind the scenes. And thank you for your work, and thank you, Mary, and department staff. So thank you, council, for adopting the budget. The next meeting of the city council, we've canceled the July 4th meeting. But ahead of July 4th, I want to mention to the public, and we've done press releases, that the city of Santa Maria is again taking aggressive response to illegal fireworks this year, using high-altitude aircraft with video and GPS technology to pinpoint launches, and the police department will provide fireworks enforcement. People receiving or shooting illegal fireworks will receive a $1,000 fine for the use of illegal fireworks. So we want people to be on notice that we are enforcing with no tolerance fireworks this year. And the next meeting of the city council is July 18th. We anticipate having the Hometown Heroes recognition, the business of the month, a retirement resolution for Tim McNulty, the Enos Ranch West development mitigation fees, and a solar power award public hearing. And then the annual appointments. by the city council. So that concludes my report.
Thank you. Thank you. Ms. Soto, should we start with you?
Yes. Other than just a lot of city meetings, like the harassment training, anti-harassment training that we had on Monday.
Thank you for putting
June
that on the
12th, That
record.
was like a 3-hour training, very insightful. Budget briefings on the 14th, meetings to prepare for the airport district meeting that took place on Thursday, June 15th. I met with the Pasadena project, the developers, on Friday, June 16th. And then today we had a mobile home park model lease meeting with park owners. And that's all for me.
Thank you. Mrs. Aguilar Hernandez?
On June 7th, I did the Ben Hay Show. On June 8th, I had a meeting with the Pasadena ISBN project meeting regarding the changes to the project. Thereafter, on the same day, June 8th, we had the quarterly investing committee. And on Friday, June 9th, we had the police council dinner. The police council raised a lot of money. On 6/10 Saturday, I went to the League of Women Voters meeting. And this past week, I had a conference with SMV PAC regarding the new center that they're studying that we approved.
Mr. Escobedo?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. On June 9th, I attended Machado Plaza ribbon cutting ceremony. Beautiful plaza, by the way. Kudos to everyone who was involved in that project. It's just, and the ceremony was just great. The weather was not the best, but it was a great ceremony. And this 15, I attend the Central Coast Air Fest 2023 kickoff barbecue. Looking forward for that. So it's going to be exciting, and it was just a fun day, really exciting to see all the aircraft. And the same day, I attend the chamber mixer at SESLOC. Very well attended, and really fun and great to see a lot of people coming together. And on the 16th, I met with the IPSN Pasadena project group, and that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Cordero?
Yes, Madam Mayor, thank you. I had a meeting with Lori Tamora and the developer for the project over at Sway and Main Street. And I think that was a very productive meeting that they brought some changes for. I had a meeting in San Ynez, or actually, yeah, San Ynez, yes. It was for the Communify, for the Champions Dinner, and it was very well done. It was an excellent dinner and presentation by Communify in recognizing several people, and the Elks were brought up, that they were champions for them. I was at the ribbon cutting for Teresa Rayburn at the park, the new park, which is just outstanding, over on Chapel Street. I attended the event at the Santa Maria PD Golf Tournament and Comedy Night. The young lady that did the comedy act there was very good at using a lot of finesse as to what to say and not to say. And I think the people that were the decision makers over at the police department and the support group for them was outstanding again this year. I attended the anti-harassment training. I didn't want to get it wrong.
Harassment training, okay.
And that was meaningful training also. I've been to that so many times. I told them I thought I could probably teach it, but there's always new things. It's good learning for all of us. I attended a meeting for New Beginnings out at the golf course. They're asking for support with the safe parking and helping more with the homeless people, things of this type. And it was meaningful, but there are some problems with it. There's some concerns, but I shouldn't say problems. I should say there are some concerns that have been pointed out to me that are taking place up in San Luis County. But it's something that I think we'll probably look at to see whether or not we can comply and help out with that safe parking thing. But there's nothing decided. I attended the prelude to the Airfest show. That it was really nice, very well done. It is something that the new air people out there, the Planes of Fame, are doing the air show this year, and I think there's big things going to happen with these people. I think that there's a lot of money involved in there, and a lot of projects are going to be done out at the airport. And I think we may not see it build out for 15 years. It's just outstanding. And then yesterday I attended the badge pinning out at the police department. I think there were 9 promotions and additions, right, Commander? Yeah. And some, there was it was a well-done function also. It was very nice for those of us who were there. And gosh, I think that's about it. Thank you very much, Mayor.
Thank you. On June 9th, I also attended the ribbon cutting of Machado Plaza. And for people who haven't seen it, you need to come down and see the beautiful park, another beautiful park in the city of Santa Maria. And that is on what street? I want to say Chapel, but it's not Chapel. Is it Chapel? Oh, okay.
Chapel and
Okay.
Lincoln.
Chapel and Lincoln, okay. And it's absolutely beautiful. And hopefully it's going to be well used. I've seen a lot of people over there using it already when I drive by. On the 11th, I attended the California Alliance of Local Electeds. On the 13th, I attended the New Beginnings educational luncheon, and that had to do with safe parking. And then the afternoon, CET public hearing. And the state comes down and really asks for what unmet needs we have in the city for these young people that are being educated and going to school. And the big thing they talked about was transportation and childcare. And if we could have a bus that runs from the north side of town all the way to the south, just down Broadway, and just nope, well, these kids, they're kids that are going to school there. And so I relayed that to Mr. Fulgoni, and he's got it. On the 14th, I attended North County Subregional Planning Committee, which is held in Buellton. On the 15th in the morning with SBCAG, the monthly board meeting. Attended the Central Coast Airfest, the 2023 kickoff barbecue. The afternoon, I went over to the Air Pollution Control District meeting. Attended the League of Women Voters, I think that was the 16th. And attended the badge pinning yesterday. I was amazed all the people, the families that were there, and I mean, some people had their cousins there, and there's just a lot of people that are in attendance to support our young men and women that are serving our police department. And that is it. Ladies and gentlemen, this meeting is adjourned.